And here comes your
It's the first Friday for football here in Western Pennsylvania, and we are excited to be with you here tonight at Gateway High School as the Gators take on a former Big East opponent, the Kiski area Cavaliers, in what is now a non-conference matchup, 5A versus 4A. Hi everyone, Vince Russo, Josh Yorish to my right. We are thrilled to be with you here tonight on GatewayGatorProductions.com for the start of this new season. And Josh, the big story for the Gateway Gators, Mason Mitchell, a returning starter for the Gators. We saw last year they had Elvis Kuchakis. We thought that was going to be the year they're going to take a step forward under center. Was not to be. But Mason Mitchell stepped in, had quite a productive freshman year. Now it's time to see what does that step forward look like for the sophomore.
Yeah, absolutely. Kuchakis last year dealt with some injuries that allowed Mitchell to eventually rise to the top of the depth chart. He made his first career start last year against this very Kiski team, and he looked pretty good. He looked very poised for a freshman quarterback, which is just rare to have a freshman starter, especially one who's coming off a season. Now he's a sophomore coming off a season, throwing for a couple thousand yards. Like, he's gotten some really valuable reps, even on a team that ultimately ended up in a three-way tie in that conference and missed the 5A playoffs last season. So Gateway wanting to get back, like you said, wanting to take that next step forward. Mitchell in that game against Kiski last year, it was a lot of short passes, a lot of screen game, trying to just manufacture ways to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And then his first downfield throw, an interception. But he wasn't rattled by it, which I think shows a lot for a freshman. And I think as a sophomore, he's going to be even more mentally tough, up for those types of challenges, and probably just a better player. So I think Gateway has a lot of promise behind center and a lot of other veteran playmakers who are going to be back around him to try to take that next step, as you said.
We'll see what that looks like for a Gators team that's coming off a 3-7 season. Like you said, Josh, missed the postseason by a razor's edge. 1 point, their loss to Armstrong was ultimately what kept them out of the postseason. On the other side, the Kiski area Cavaliers did make the postseason. They got a couple key returners. Nick Anderson, the biggest one on the offensive line. He's going to be the guy to watch for the Cavaliers tonight as we are ready for kickoff. The Gators will get the ball first, and they will travel right to left on your screen.
And it's not often a player to highlight is an offensive lineman, but Anderson, a four-star recruit, he's in his junior year now. He's got offers from Penn State. He's got offers from Indiana, LSU, like all the big-name programs, and there's going to be more rolling in. How does he impact this game in the trenches for the Cavaliers is a big question.
Seth Duda kicks it off, and the Gators will return it from their 10-yard line. The C's part, if only for a moment, up over the 35 and dragging a few would-be tacklers with him is Jaden Stammer. Stammer going to be one of those guys to watch for the Gators offense. He's quite the speedster. Won the 100-meter dash in 3A track. And that speed on display here on the first play for the Gators.
Yeah, absolutely. Legit track speed. And now he's got a quarterback who can actually take advantage of that, because sometimes when you've got a burner on the outside, if you don't have a big arm quarterback, you can't really use it to their advantage. They're going to probably try to manufacture him a lot of underneath touches, and eventually you know there's going to be a deep shot coming to try to get behind this Kiski defense.
Stammer showing a bit of power there as well, dragging a few people along up over the 35-yard line. The Gators will take this first snap of the 2026-2027 season from the 37-yard line, and it's a handoff to Julian Dancier, who's going to lose a couple. Has a great job knifing into the backfield a number of Cavaliers, led by Cody Carrion, the 6 foot, 200-pound senior defensive lineman.
And you see Mitchell go under center. I don't know that Gateway took a snap under center all year last season, so that's definitely a change for this offense. We'll see if it was just the first play or something that they try to work into their offensive philosophy.
Bryce Bowman also in on the stop, another senior for this Cavaliers defense. A quick little shovel pass forward. It's Stammer in space, able to get to the outside. That's his game. Able to get past a few Cavalier players before he's finally driven out of bounds by a couple Cavaliers, including number 26, Landon Wright.
And like I said, they're going to try to manufacture him touches, and that's a great way to do it. Get a tight end, Casey Carter, leading the way for him, an excellent block. And that way you're mitigating a pass rush led by Anderson that can be very scary, especially with a force like that up the middle who can just blow things up right away. This will be a true pass set here with Mitchell in empty.
That long gain enough to move the chains here a minute into this one, and now Mitchell going to air this one out past the hash marks, and that one a little off the mark. The intended target was Stammered again.
And who ended up right in his lap? Anderson. Watch him just bull rush the right guard. I'm sure he can pick his matchup, whatever side he wants to go to work on, and there's a huge strength advantage there. Gateway, if they want to drop back, a traditional drop back like that, they better try to give a double team or give some help on the inside.
Anderson, an imposing 6'4", 265. Mitchell going to call his own number here, fall forward for gain of a handful of yards. It'll make it 3rd and medium here, call it 3rd and 5. As the Gators inch further into Cavaliers territory.
And I like that play call, not only because it gets you into 3rd and manageable, but it also might help slow up that pass rush a little bit when you do go back to that empty look, because there is the threat of the QB run. Establishing that early, I think, is really important.
Mitchell ran for a couple hundred yards last season, got into the end zone a handful of times, but did the majority of his damage through the air with over 2,000 yards passing and 20 touchdowns. Fakes the handoff here and throws it almost into the outstretched arms of the linebacker, Ashton Taylor. Mitchell gets lucky on that one because Taylor gets his mitts on that one. He's got a lot of greenery in front of him.
And who came through on block? Number 62, Anderson, had some speed to run down Mitchell, but that was just well covered down the field as well. They tried to design a touch for Carter, going against the flow of that play action. Just never really developed, and Mitchell probably should have thrown that one completely away and just lived to fight another series.
Jackson Michael Andrich back for his sophomore campaign, the place kicker and punter. Gators are going to trap the Cavaliers deep within their own end, and so the decision to punt that deep in Cavaliers territory, you think maybe go for it, but the Gators able to pin the Cavaliers within their own 10-yard line, so Kiski area's got a long way to go to pay dirt.
Yeah, and a fair catch there inside the 5. Used to be heels on the 10-yard line, then it was heels on the 5-yard line. Now you're willing to fair catch it within the 5. Scary times for the first real punt return of the season, but able to handle it cleanly and set up possession with some pretty poor field position for the Cavaliers.
Gators defensive unit will be pinning their ears back. Safety on their brain. See what the Cavaliers go with here first. It's a simple handoff. That one going to be swallowed up quickly. Not a whole lot happening there. Looks like the Cavaliers got back to the line of scrimmage, and you see the primary ball carrier there is Taylor, who nearly came up with the interception on the other end. He returns to the tailback position after a productive year last year.
Yeah, as a freshman, he was very productive for Kiski. That time, just no real running lane, and Julian Dancier, the running back on the other side, sniffing that out. Sometimes that vision helps you out defensively as well, and he was able to meet him in the hole.
Taylor, 670 yards, 3 touchdowns last year. We'll see if they look Tegan Shirley's way, one of the top targets. Caught 33 passes, 533 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Was an all-conference selection. Made big plays on both sides of the ball. Now we have a timeout call by the Cavaliers. Not uncommon to see coaches burn one early in this, what used to be week 0, Josh, but is now week 1. But for all intents and purposes, this is the opener. This is the first real game. You had your scrimmage last week to work some of the kinks out, but this is the first night where you got the fans in the stands, the band playing, the cheerleaders, and those real uniforms on, and there's just a different feel to it.
And it's pretty nervy when you're backed up in your own end zone for, a returning quarterback, a returning primary running back. So a lot of experience on that side, but also a 27-year-old head coach in Braden Timmons, his first year at the helm, 3rd year with the program, but there's a lot of new with Kiski, so not surprised that they're willing to burn one, want to make sure they're in the right play and not spotting a Gateway, either great field position or potentially a turnover and a score the other way.
What a great story that is. Braden Timmons, one of the youngest coaches in the region, 27 years old, taking over for Colin Ha, who is now the offensive line coach for the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League. Sam Albert was the coach the year before. That was when Timmons joined the staff and certainly learned a lot under the veteran Albert. Now in charge of this program. Players have resonated with having a younger coach. Can they come up with a big play here on 2nd and 10 to get out of the shadow of their own end zone? It's a quarterback keeper. Little RPO action there, and taking it forward for a handful of yards is the signal caller, Landon Artman.
Big physical runner as a quarterback, getting downhill. I imagine that's going to be a lot of the game plan. You've got an excellent offensive line, led by Anderson, of course. That midline read kind of takes advantage of your guard getting a really good push. So setting up 3rd and about 6 here. Now is it time to really drop back and pass.
Artman, 6'2", 205. Certainly some size there in the backfield as the starting quarterback for the Cavaliers, who have some positive press. They're returning some talented playmakers on both sides of the ball. They are expecting to be a playoff team. They have goals of winning Kiski's first playoff game since 1990. And a nice extension there, taking off, reading what the defense gave him there. Artman just able to knife through and dive forward. That's going to be enough to move the chains here for Kiski area.
There was a switch along the offensive line before that 3rd down play. Chamber Prorock came in and held up really well at left guard. Now the starter, Stephen McCartney, back in there. But a difficult spot to be filling in as Artman takes that snap. And the give is up the middle to Taylor.
Over the middle. Stop by 56.
A lot of work here on the ground for the Cavaliers. They, as you said, Josh, really haven't dropped back and passed the ball. We saw that look on 3rd down, and Artman ended up taking it himself as another bit of gang tackling there for Gateway, including Jackson Smith, the uber-talented senior linebacker, really part of the heartbeat of this Gators defense.
Absolutely a tackling machine at that 2nd level. Actually played some quarterback last year when there were quarterback injuries. That was more of the smash mouth, run it down your throat kind of approach as you'd expect from a linebacker.
Taylor, productive carry. He's got close to 1st down yardage on the 2nd down carry. That's going to take it from 2nd and 7 down to, no, they're going to give him the 1st. They're going to say that moved the chains. So it'll be a fresh set of downs for the Cavaliers here.
Favorable spot for Kiski there, and a really good run from Taylor, the sophomore. He's a young player, but he doesn't run like it. Had a lot of experience last season. That time just reading his blocks really well, being patient in the backfield. Usually a young running back, they're going to panic. They don't want to tackle for loss. He was able to let things develop and get positive yardage because of it.
5 minutes in here, no score. Both teams able to move the ball a little bit here offensively. Kiski doing the bulk of it on the ground, and they're going to go back to Taylor here, and that play is blown up in the backfield, and all over that one is big 51 Jaquan Reed, a 5'11", 320-pound senior.
Yeah, the nose tackle penetrating. Usually you think about somebody like that just eating up blocks in the middle, but that time he got past the center and the guard to make the tackle. Interesting play there from Kiski. Just a lot of the offensive linemen immediately worked to the 2nd level, but I'm not sure they finished their initial blocks first.
So officially a loss of 2 for Taylor there. Bunch formation to the right. Artman in the gun once again with Taylor, his sidecar running back to the left. Receivers downfield. Artman again, not a lot of time and going to take off. This time the gain is limited to about 4 yards, which should make it about 3rd and 8 here upcoming for the Cavaliers.
But that shows the importance of athleticism at the quarterback position, right? This could have been a sack, and sacks kill drives. but instead Artman, physical, gets out of that arm tackle, makes positive yardage out of it, and now you have a chance to actually move the chains on third down. Even if Kiski isn't able to, because of Artman's athleticism, they're not pinned all the way back. They're not punting out of their own end zone. They're winning the field position battle after being pinned back to start their first drive of the season.
Another big third down here upcoming for the Cavaliers. They were able to cash in on the last one, courtesy of Artman's legs. This will be a quick screen pass. That is the aforementioned Tegan Shirley, who is super explosive for the Cavaliers, but that time the Gators able to swallow him up quickly. And it'll be fourth down. Punt team comes on for the Cavaliers.
I think that's a good play call from Kiski. They see everybody up at the line of scrimmage. It looks like it's going to be a zero blitz. If you have some numbers on the outside, get it out, flip it out for a quick screen to Shirley, your playmaker, and see if he can make something of it. But they did it to the boundary side of the field, so all the linemen were very close. There wasn't a lot of space for Shirley to get upfield.
Artman goes from quarterback to punter, and not the best punt in the world. That one, a high warbler, goes out just past midfield. The ref continues to march forward, so the Gators are going to have the ball at their own 47-yard line, and Artman didn't seem like there was a little heat in the kitchen there. Didn't get the leg fully extended, Josh, and that led for a pretty short punt.
Yeah, and this is the field position game. Gateway coming out the positive end of it, right? That's why you might be willing to punt instead of going for it, even though you're across the 50-yard line on your opening series of the season. That decision paying off for Don Hall.
Yeah, the decision to punch, and then the defense's ability to get after the Cavaliers and only let up one first down means the Gators start 10 yards forward from where they started their first possession on the 37. They were able to move it into Kiski area territory for punting the last time. Can they punctuate this drive, put the first points of this game on the board? After starting the last drive under center, that one a drop back pass.
Pass is incomplete.
Incomplete for the Gators on first down.
Again, they're in a situation where they're leaving Anderson unblocked, and I get you're playing games with that. You're having an RPO kind of read there to try to, allow him to penetrate, but he's too smart of a player, he's too athletic of a player to be the one that you're trying to take advantage of in space.
So that'll bring up second down and 10 for the Gators now. Falling behind schedule here. Can they get a chunk of yards back? They'll go with the shovel play again, and Kiski area read it well, but Casey Carter able to stumble, rumble, bumble his way almost 10 yards. He's going to be about half a yard short of the first down, but makes this a very manageable third down.
Casey Carter was tough to tackle last year when he was listed around 215. Now he's listed at 235. Even more of a load to bring down, and you saw the value of that on that 9-yard catch and run.
Carter, an all-conference selection last year. A tight end and linebacker for this Gators squad, one of the veteran leaders that they're going to count on this season. He's out there for this third and short. And under center, they'll give it to Julian Dancier. He needed about a half a yard. Looks like he'll get about 3 on the play. So not a huge gain there, but enough to move the chains for the Gators and keep this drive moving in Cavaliers territory.
One of Dancier's strengths as a runner is his vision, is his patience, and that usually lends itself to running out of the shotgun with like maybe a longer mesh, option plays, things like that. This year they're going to the downhill running game, and that time he saw the hole, he hit it, understood the assignment on 3rd and 1, and was able to move the chains. Nice change of pace from the veteran running back.
This was in the ballpark where the last drive stalled out for the Gators. See if the second drive allows them to keep the rhythm going here. They'll go back to Dancier after the first down run, and that time not a whole lot going. The Cavaliers defensively are winning battles at the line of scrimmage. Dancier limited to just a yard gain on that one.
A lot between the tackles for Gateway early on, and they probably don't have the advantage there, but because the way Anderson's able to wreck the game as a pass rusher, you can't push the ball downfield. You can't trust your offensive line for a long drop back.
Blitz coming, 2nd and long, and they throw this one out into the flats. And it's a big gain down inside the 25-yard line. The reception made is Deshaun Spencer, senior receiver, wearing S.J. Moorfield's old number and looking reminiscent of the playmaker who graduated for the Gators. As he's able to move the chains and some nice yak there for the senior.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Wearing that number 3, S.J. Moorfield immediately jumps to mind, but it's Spencer this year and making the most of that first touch of the season.
Caught that one a couple yards behind the line of scrimmage and was able to really make some hay. They'll go to Stammer here. And another quick throw out into the flats. That one looks like it's going to be a loss. Actually, they'll mark forward progress, about a half a yard gain, but nothing more. And it's another second and long for the Gators.
Yeah, that screen blown up by Ashton Taylor, really physical player at 200 pounds.
And who else in there? Nick Anderson.
Yeah,
again.
He's been all over the field. I mean, I feel like I've said his name too much already, but he was able to get to the perimeter and make that play.
Early in this game, he is looking every bit of the billing. He has been covered heavily by the local press here as one of the top 5 linemen. It feels like it's him and then Central Catholic's entire offensive line is getting all the press. All those
good
guys.
Company to keep.
It's great. Those guys are all getting tons of offers, and Anderson, as you said earlier, a ton of Power 4 offers have come through for him, including his dad's alma mater, Penn State. Will he choose them? He'll have no shortage of other suitors, that's for sure. Empty set here on what's now 2nd and 4. Gators in the red zone for the first time this season. Mitchell going to take it himself, and he gets crunched by 4 different jerseys. Anderson not in on that one. Had a host of other guys in making the stop on that one, including Landon Wright from the linebacker position.
A well-timed stunt there defensively from Kiski. The defensive tackles switched right at the snap, and that took away the run lane, made the fit a lot more complicated for the Gateway offensive line, forced Mitchell to bounce that one outside.
See how aggressive the Gators get here. They are going empty set once again on 3rd and 3 in field goal range, and a nice play design. They get Spencer coming across the formation, and that's going to be a touchdown for the Gateway Gators.
Spencer for the touchdown.
The offensive line did hold up long enough for that drag route coming across the formation. Spencer gets a running start, able to turn the corner. Watch the double team. We'll look at it on another replay. Julius Clark and Tyrion Williams. Some broken tackles from Spencer out in space. He does the rest. That's the type of yards after the catch you need if you're going to be a quick game passing offense like Gateway has opted to be early in this one.
Snap, hold, and kicker good, and the Gators jump out to a 7-0 lead here in the final moments of the first quarter. They are moving the ball well, a good mix of run and pass. That time they do it through the air. Mason Mitchell able to find Spencer for the touchdown throw. Take another look at it here.
Mitchell, a lot of time and space on that replay. That's the difference from a lot of the other dropbacks we've seen so far in this one. There's been a lot of heat in that pocket, time to deliver. Obviously not a difficult throw on a little drag route like that, but then you get a playmaker in space and let them go to work. That's what Spencer did to reach the end zone for the first time this season.
Spencer's touched the ball twice already tonight after really not being a factor for the Gators offense last season. And both times picking up some big-time yards after the reception, and that time doing enough to get himself into the end zone. And the Gators do what they really struggled to do last season, which is draw first blood.
Yeah.
Get ahead, give yourself the opportunity to let your team dictate the pace and flow of this game. And they're able to take advantage of some great field position.
And credit to Mitchell as well, right? You're coming into this first game of the season. You got your feet wet last year. Now you're the full-time starter. You want to come out firing that thing all over the field. But he's been content to just take what's there, get the ball out of his hands quickly. Almost had the one mishap where he didn't throw it away on that long rollout. But other than that, he's been very patient, and it's paid dividends for the Gators.
Michael Andrich out to do the duties to kick this one off. Puts boot to ball, and this one going to carry all the way into the end zone, so no return for the Cavaliers. Bryce Bowman watches that one go over his head, and a great kick. The Cavaliers will take over once again deep in their own territory.
Michael Andrich turning into a little bit of a weapon for the Gators.
Don Hall talked about him in the preseason coverage, that he was a guy that was going to be a difference maker for this team.
In warm-ups, was hitting from about 42, 43. Not consistently, but he's got the leg for it. It's an option if you need it, but just as valuable is kicking touchbacks like that.
Well, and Gators fans with a bit longer of a memory, how many times over the last 2 seasons have the Gators fallen by an extra point in a game? There was an opportunity to tie Penn Hills a few years back in a playoff game on this turf. A kick went wide right, would have potentially extended the Gators' season as they go to Taylor, who's able to shrug off a few Gators and fall forward to about the 28-yard line. So another impressive game by Taylor. He's 8 on the right side there.
He is just a really physical runner. He's taller at 6 foot, but he keeps his center of gravity pretty low. His pad level's really good into contact. He's just going to be tough to bring down, and he's got tree trunks for legs already as a sophomore.
Runners like that, they just get harder and harder to tackle as the night goes on. See if Taylor breaks one at some point.
With Artman as well, it could be a body blow offense for Kiski.
That's certainly what it's looked like for the Cavaliers and what they've tried to do early. Artman runs into a ton of resistance there. A number of Gators down in the fray, including Michael Burrows, another big name to watch for this Gators defense at linebacker, and Khalid Harper, who made some plays for the linebacker position last year. That'll be the end of the first quarter here. And the Gators will march down to the other side of the field, feeling good about things here. 1 quarter in the books. Gators up 7-0. Josh, before we gather your thoughts after 12 minutes of play, I want to give a shout out to our own Lee Schaefer directing over in the next room. And we'll watch this replay one more time. But he has done a great job revamping our graphics setup. We hope you enjoy the new sleek view of our lower third graphic here on GatorProductions.com. And those are your points after the first quarter. Deshaun Spencer taking it the distance after a short pass from Mason Mitchell. And Josh, your thoughts after 12 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, Anderson's obviously going to dictate a lot in a game like this, an interior presence like that on both sides of the line, and he has. He's changed the way that Gateway has to call offense. They can't run at him. They need to be very quick game reliant in the passing game, but Mitchell has been content to be patient with that, and that's really important. That level of poise is really important from a sophomore quarterback just in his first full year as the starter. I think that's been really impressive, and then how does Gateway start to find answers for him so they can get to the drop-back passing game? I think on that Spencer touchdown, you saw them double-team Anderson. Kiski's gonna go to some stunts. They're going to go to some pressure packages. So it's going to be a chess match on the inside, and I think that's the most intriguing thing to watch about this matchup so far.
Second quarter action resumes. The Cavaliers, after the touchback, will take over third down now on this drive. They've moved it forward to the 27-yard line. They need a few more yards, and they're going to get it here wide open. Good job tackling after the reception, but the damage was done in on the tackle there. Daryl Hester, and number 14 for the Gators, Antonio Fallo, but not until a first down recorded for number 15, Bryce Bowman.
Bold play call on the first downfield passing attempt of the game. The entire Kiski offensive line was almost off the screen over to the right sideline. They sold run like crazy on 3rd and 3, and it opened things up to the backside.
Bowman all by his lonesome, and again, DBs for the Gators, after getting caught flat-footed, were able to limit the damage, but the Cavaliers now set up at the 41-yard line. And again, they'll go to the pass, and this one, I don't know if that was a fumble or an interception. The arm looked like it might have been coming forward. Either way, that ball popped up into the air, right into the outstretched arms of Casey Carter, and the Gators set up with excellent field position on the turnover.
Artman's first actual drop back and just didn't really have any feel for that. Pressure coming off the blind side. He immediately gets flat-footed off that drop. He stares down his receiver, doesn't have it open right away. That's the way Gateway wants to play defense. They play press coverage on the outside, a lot of bodies near the line of scrimmage. They want to speed the quarterback up, make him make a quick decision. Artman didn't that time, and he paid the price.
So it is a turnover. First one of the night for either team. And Mason Mitchell and company take over at the 25-yard line of the Cavaliers, and they're going to go deep, and a completion right across the middle of the field. And Josh, an adage as old as time, you get the turnover, you take a shot. That one wasn't quite a house call, but Nazir Diggs sets up the Gators with first and goal.
And some great composure from Mitchell. When you get that pressure on the inside, quarterbacks have a tendency to sail that throw. It was a little bit high over the middle, but throwing that seam ball, that's not always a terrible thing. He threw with a lot of great touch, and he kept it out of reach of the safety. That's an excellent throw from Mitchell, and not the most comfortable situation when you have two of your offensive linemen getting pushed right back into your lap.
Diggs at 5'9", able to climb the ladder there and come down with that one. It's going to be a fake handoff and a great defensive play. It looked like for a moment it was going to be an easy pitch and catch to Jaden Stammer in the back of the end zone. But cutting in front, a really nice defensive play by Davion McNeil.
Yeah, he closed on that really well. If you're Stammer, you want to flatten that route out a little bit so you can't let him undercut it. But the 6'3" corner, like, that's why length is so important on the outside. Just able to close that ground so quickly.
Second and goal for the Gators now with the ball at the 2-yard line. Deep in the backfield is Dancier. Will they look his way? They will not. It's a rollout. Mitchell going to go to the corner of the end zone. How did he complete that? Oh, my goodness. What a window he had to fit that one through. And he does it to Khalid Harper in the back of the end zone. A gorgeous, gorgeous throw by Mason Mitchell.
Sometimes as a quarterback, you need a little bit of arm arrogance, and boy, did he have that there. Fit it right through the two defenders. Rifled right between them. Mason Mitchell. We were saying he's being patient. His first start of year 2. You know, he's just taking what the defense is giving him. Now he's forcing the issue a little bit, and he looks great doing it.
Point after, up and good by Michael Andrich, and it's a 14-point lead with 10:58 left in the first half of this one. Casey Carter comes up with the big turnover after Hartman takes the hit, coughs the ball up. And then the other way here, take another look at this throw by Mason Mitchell in double coverage.
And he doesn't have a great platform there. Like, he's able to generate a lot of horsepower with the hips, throwing off that back foot. It's a little bit easier rolling to your right, obviously, but still kind of throwing back against the grain. Like, he can't really step in and drive that, and he still had a lot of zip. I wouldn't advise always trying to make that throw, but the fact that you can is certainly a good thing.
And you want your quarterback to believe that he's going to make that completion. I mean, he's got, we talk about poise and resilience and some of the mental aspects of Mitchell's game and how we saw those things really start to flourish as he got comfortable as a starter last season. And he is only taking that to the next level, at least in the first 13 minutes and 2 seconds of game action here. A lot of game left to go, but the Gators have come out and they have set the tone here, up 2 scores. Michael Andrich. This one's going to hang a little bit. We will have a return here. That one is taken by the talented DB that we just talked about a moment ago, Davion McNeil, and he takes it up past the 25 to about the 26, 27-yard line, and that's where the Cavaliers will start this drive.
I was looking for the flag to see if there was any wind. The field flipped. Michael Andrich made it to the end zone last time. That one really hung up there. I think he just got under that one a little bit more. Kind of a little pitch, but Gateway's kick coverage up to the task.
We've seen that be a bit of an issue. Some of the special teams has been great for the Gators so far in this one. Michael Andrich not only 2 for 2 on PATs, but an excellent punt. And the one time he had to do it, pinned the Cavaliers inside their own 10-yard line. One touchback on the first kickoff, and this time another long field for the Cavaliers. And Taylor going to get swarmed by Jackson Smith and a slew of others. And Josh, great defensive stand there on first down, but again, hard to not look at the difference in field position. And certainly the Gators benefited from a turnover, but they have had such better starting field position than the Cavaliers, and for an offense that seems to be predicated heavily on the run, that's tough for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, this is not the situation that Kiski wants to be in, right? They want to be playing the game on their terms. with a lead so they can go to their run game. They can really lean on you. Now Artman's going to have to drop back and pass. When you're that type of body blows offense, you can't have turnovers, right? You can't have those big-time mistakes because they put you behind in an obvious passing situation.
Oh, my goodness. A ginormous hit out in the flats by Teron Gans. And that another reception that was wide open for Bryce Bowman, but that time the Gators did a much better job of getting to the ball quickly, dropping the receiver, and it's going to be 3rd and long.
I think Gateway's starting to recognize that they don't have to worry too much about getting beaten over the top. Once a defense can play that way, they can play much faster. They can trigger on everything they see, and that's what you saw from Gans there, able to trust his eyes and go make that play.
And credit to this defensive front for the Gators. Artman has not had the time, to your point, Josh, to look downfield. He's going to try to do it here on 3rd and long. Now he's just going to very quickly pull it down. He's able to shrug off a tackler there. It looks like he's still going to be a little short of 1st down yardage. So while he did get the better of that hit, Darrell Hester still doing a good job of forcing Artman out of bounds before he got to that line to gain.
Yeah, Artman willing to deliver a little bit of punishment, but maybe should have tried to fight upfield a little bit more. The seas parted there, but I think they're going to try to keep eyes on him as a scrambler. Gateway tends to want to play man on the outside, but at the second level, linebackers, Jackson Smith, players like that, keep tabs on the quarterback when they're a scrambler like Artman.
Another punt situation here, and it's Artman, who didn't get a whole lot of the first one. This is an appreciably better punt, and they're going to get an even better bounce. So the Gators will be set up with their worst field position. They do have a flag down on the field. We'll see. There was a big hit there. We'll see who that's against. That'll certainly impact where this ball is spotted for the first play from scrimmage on this drive.
Yeah, the first penalty of the season, and it looked like the gunner on the far side. A lot of physical play. I'm honestly not sure which way it's going to go, but it looks like they might be backing Gateway up even further.
So potentially the first real adversity the Gators will face tonight. We'll get the call from our officiating crew here, referee Richard Goodwich, Matt Grossman, the umpire, John Swartz, the head linesman, Christopher Sully, the line judge, Bill Hyatt, the side judge, and Jim Newcomer, the field judge for this talented crew tonight. Looks like it is going to be a holding call against the Gators on the return.
Take a look at the top of the screen.
And he just drags the gunner down there.
Eric Dawkins, the junior for Gateway. That's really going to back the Gators up. Looks like starting field position about the 12-yard line.
We saw the Cavaliers start in similar territory on the opposite hash in the first quarter. They were able to pick up 1 first down before ultimately having to punt, and what would lead to Gateway's first touchdown. Gators have a long way to go now, starting officially at their own 12-yard line. And a designed keeper, Mitchell, dances around a little bit, but the gain is going to be slim to none. It'll be 2nd and long for the Gators after a gain of about 2.
Yeah, Mitchell didn't really handle that snap too cleanly, so I'm not certain that was a designed run, but just taking off wisely instead of trying to compound that issue with a big-time mistake backed up near your own end zone. Going empty here.
Just going to say 5 receivers, 3 to Mitchell's right. And he takes a shot downfield after taking a shot. And that's going to be a pass interference call as the receiver, Spencer, went up for it and got hit in the back before the ball came in. And that's just a case, I think, Josh, of a DB just getting a little overzealous.
Yeah, wanted to deliver a big hit, that throw, running up the rail, right? You want to run and hit that alley as a defensive back. There was a window there for Mitchell. I think he just needed to let that thing go a little bit earlier, right? You have to anticipate that window so you can drop that ball in there instead of seeing it come open and deliver that throw. But nonetheless, Gateway getting quite a bit of relief here from that poor field position by that penalty.
Maybe a 15-yard penalty. You see Mitchell still delivered a pretty good ball after absorbing the hit there from Cody Carrion, the 6 foot, 200-pound defensive lineman for the Cavaliers. So much more breathing room, as you said, Josh, for the Gators, who move up to the 29 after the penalty. And it'll be a carry by Dan Sear. He's got a little bit of running room, but a flag does come out.
They broke the seal on the penalties, and
here we go. And I'm sure we'll see it at some point, but no procedural penalties for either team yet. Yeah, that's normally a calling card of the first quarter of week 0, week 1, as it's now called. And we'll get another holding call on the Gators. It'll be 10 yards from the spot of the foul, so we'll see how far they get backed up here. That is likely what created that room there for Dan Sear. As you see, the defensive player for the Cavaliers with the arms up. Looks like the guilty culprit is Jaquan Reed for the Gators.
And was just going to say that's a good opportunity for Gateway to run the ball because Anderson was not on the field for that play. I think he's back out there now, number 62, and he is at his defensive tackle spot, so things are going to get considerably tougher, especially backed up.
Stephen McCartney Jr., the defensive lineman who helped draw that penalty, a freshman lineman. And wide open, and oh goodness, a first down, and what could have been a lot more goes right through the hands of Nazir Diggs.
Was just going to say, Kiski defensively, they've been very static, right? It's been 4 down front, zone coverage behind it, and I think now you see why, because they brought extra bodies, showing kind of a sim pressure, which allows Anderson to get one-on-ones, which is what they need to create that pressure. But the communication wasn't great on the back end when you're trying to get linebackers to drop with real depth from the line of scrimmage. Gateway had a chance there for a huge play.
Good news is it's still only second down. Bad news, 2nd and 20. Mitchell sees a lot of green turf in front of him. That looks like a late hit, and it is. Taylor not only a little bit late, as Mitchell had already started the slide, but up around the head. We've known now for the better part of 5 years that's going to be a real emphasis of officials to monitor hits up around the head.
And obviously, player safety very paramount. It's a difficult position for the defender to be put in, right, when the quarterback is sliding, right? He did initiate the slide, but there's always difficulties with, like, how early did they start the slide. So not necessarily malicious, just a super tough spot to be in. Certainly a penalty when that hit is coming up around the head, certainly should be. But those slides can be really dangerous, and especially because that hit then, their head can go back on the turf, and that creates some really tough situations for the offensive player and for the defensive player. There's some argument that it's actually safer to just dive forward at their feet and maybe turn your back as a quarterback to give yourself up. It's a lot to ask as well. But that's always going to be a big issue, player safety. So good to see the flag come out, but a tough spot for all parties involved.
Heard some boo birds from the faithful up in Vandergrift who've made the trek down to cheer on the Cavaliers. And that one was pretty textbook. And the first down carry, not going to go for a whole lot for Dan Sear, who's really struggled to find separation away from this Kiski area front. That time, it's Chamber Prorock, the 5'10", 220-pound junior D lineman, who's able to slide across and make a big play.
Dan Sear, again, great vision, great patience, right? He's kind of bouncing through those cuts, lets that alley open up, but he doesn't always have that strength to break through those arm tackles at the first level and turn that into a big gain.
Able to avoid a hit. A quick throw into the flats. A flag comes out late, likely going to be a holding call on the Gators, but not before a big gain by Casey Carter, and so we'll see how far that pushes the Gators back. The fact that the penalty came out down the field might still behoove the Gators. They might still pick up a first down here. If not, should be 2nd and short.
I think Ned Reed, number 7, the freshman, on the outside with that holding penalty. Mitchell getting that out very quickly. I don't think he sensed that pressure right away. Maybe he knew he was hot, maybe he didn't, but able to get that out. And still positive yardage for Gateway.
Put it right in the breadbasket for Casey, and you see, able to sidestep.
Change that arm angle a little bit. That's the type of stuff that you need from a quarterback. You need throwing creativity. That's not always like getting out of the pocket and scrambling. It could just be simple arm slot stuff to get different throws off. That could have been an incompletion. Instead, it's a very big gain.
Lorenzo Price brought the pressure there. Mitchell gets the best of it. Even after the hold, it's still a first down for the Gators. They're going to that shovel pass again, and now the Cavaliers have fully wised up to that one. They really had the last one covered well, but Casey Carter's just a man among boys out there, and that time, Dan Sear, not the same fate.
Yeah, it got swallowed up immediately, not a ton of space there. Those quick hitters, those kind of layups that you want to give your quarterback early in a game, you're not always going to be able to just go back to them to try to get them into a rhythm.
We'll say, though, Don Hall using every part of the field here. That's not something we've seen the last few seasons, and that's the benefit of having a quarterback with that prowess and arm ability. Luke Kreider made the stop, makes it second and long. They're going to go back to Dan Sear. He's going to have a little bit of room, but again, a nominal gain for number 5. And the ball looks like it might have come out. Did the play stop? Or is it a turnover?
I think that whistle blew before the ball came out because his forward progress had been stopped, but it's a bang play, and it looks like Gateway's going to hold on to possession.
So we'll see the replay here, but you can't hear the whistle. It will remain Gateway's ball. Still a heads-up play in there by Landon Wright, but all for naught. Carter and Burrows head onto the field. Checking off here are Deshaun Spencer and Nazir Diggs. Bit of a heavier package here for the Gators on 3rd and long. And they're going to get the Cavs to jump. That encroachment's going to lead to 5 yards and a much more manageable 3rd down for Gateway.
It's not exactly a cadence, right? So it's different giving credit to the quarterback in that situation. They may not even have had a play call for that hard snap, that hard clap that you heard from Mitchell. But that was something he did as a freshman, able to draw defenses off. And you're getting a free 5 yards. Now that opens up the playbook in a much different way for 3rd and 4 than it does for 3rd and 9.
And at your opponent's 35, it's probably 4 down territory.
Yeah.
So, even if this ends up being a 4th and 3, you feel much more comfortable, especially with how your defense is played, maybe taking a shot if that is what comes to pass. The Gators certainly are going to try to pick up first down yardage here through the air. And it's a shot downfield, and again, a bump there early.
Yeah.
And the flag comes out. And Josh, I think, again, that's the right call.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen if it's not a really good throw from Mitchell, right? That's right on the money. I think Reed would have at least been able to get a hand on that if that contact didn't come early. And I was just going to say right before that, the only question you mentioned using every part of the field is who is that outside receiver now? Who's going to be that big X receiver? It seems like they want the freshman Ned Reed to be that guy for Gateway. That was a nice route, got bumped off of it obviously from that penalty, but was able to create some separation, get the inside leverage, and present a nice target to his quarterback in a big game.
Second interference penalty. Penalties have gone both ways on this drive, but have certainly hurt the Cavaliers much more. They also committed an unnecessary roughness call on the low hit on the Mason Mitchell run. Another quick screen there, and kind of dinking and dunking right now, Josh, and they're pulling this Cavaliers defense forward, and then you're seeing every so often that deep shot like the one that just drew the penalty.
Yeah, absolutely, and that time Jaquan Reed, your big 320-pound guard, a 320-pound guard is good for a lot of things at the high school level. Rarely going to be good for getting out and trying to lead the way for a screen like that, so that's just a tough spot to put him in. Not able to get clean contact, and a nice tackle from the second level coming downhill by Kiski.
2nd and 8. Gators once again here in the red zone. They're going to hand this one off. Dan Sear going to get wrapped up in the backfield, and he is just having a tough go of it tonight as Lorenzo Price, the junior linebacker, makes another exceptional play.
And just not much there. To Dan Sear's credit, like there's nothing you can really do when somebody, a defensive player, is busting into the backfield like that, like Lorenzo Price. You want to see maybe a little bit more, make you miss in a phone booth, a little bit more tackle breaking, but that's just a difficult situation.
Well, the Gators will take a timeout here. That'll be their first timeout. Kiski burned one in the first quarter, didn't have the look they wanted deep in their own territory, and so both teams have 2 remaining here as we start to get down to the waning moments of this first half. And the Gators with a chance, Josh, to go into the locker room with a real tight grip on this game. Now, we saw Kiski last year come back into the game, and it took some defensive heroics for the Gators to hang on to that 34-31 win. We'll see what that looks like. While we have a moment, let's take a look at the new look Big East Conference. These two teams, as we talked about in pregame, Josh, were conference opponents last year. Kiski area bumps down to 4A, and back into conference opponent territory. We see Connellsville once again, and we see Fox Chapel, a newcomer to the conference slate for the Gators, and a conference that looks maybe a little more manageable than it did a year ago. And certainly Woodland Hills and Penn Trafford are the two teams that we're going to have circled, including that Penn Trafford team that brings back 6 all-conference selections. That is going to be the team to beat in the section, or in the conference, excuse me. But Gateway looking every bit of a stalwart here, at least in week 1.
Yeah, certainly trying to elevate into contender status after missing the playoffs last year.
They did not get a whole lot of pub or press. Mitchell able to just get rid of that one before Nick Anderson gets to him. It's going to be no gain out in the flats. It's going to be likely a field goal opportunity here. First time we'll see Michael Andrich trot out for a 3-point attempt here tonight.
I talked about Kiski being very static along the defensive line. That time they finally get Gateway into an obvious passing situation. So now you can start playing some games. You run a stunt with Anderson. He's athletic enough to get around the outside and force that pressure.
40 yards from the left hash. Michael Andrich, hold is good. Kick is low and wobbly, but it's good from 40 yards out. We saw him hit from upwards of 43. That one not quite as clean and as pretty as we saw in pregame warmups. But with 11 guys across from him, he gets the job done and adds 3 more points to the Gators' lead.
And right before that play, Mitchell is just playing the quarterback position at a pretty advanced level for a sophomore. He feels that pressure on the right side from Anderson. He steps up, he climbs in the pocket instead of trying to spin out and bail like a lot of young quarterbacks would, trying to make something happen with his legs. He's not trying to do too much. Checks it down to his tight end. A good accurate throw on a play that could have been somewhat dangerous with the defender right there. And that's a very minimal gain, but it matters a lot when you're right on the edge of field goal range. So that's the type of stuff when he thinks he has it to zip it through a couple defenders into the end zone, he's gonna have that arm arrogance and try to make that big throw. But when he just needs to mitigate the damage a little bit and keep his kicker in range to attempt one, he's gonna make the right play. So it's hard to find many negatives with the way he's played through this first half.
And that's translated, most importantly of all, to a 17-0 lead for the Gators, who really have had this thing buttoned up in all 3 phases of the game. Michael Andrich, again, going to send this one into the end zone for his second touchback. Return man able to get hands on it, McNeil, but wasn't able to fully corral that one, and probably, honestly, served better for letting that one go.
Definitely. Once that gets into the end zone, it's a touchback right away, but that would have been trouble. And in NFL rules, landing zone type of stuff, that's the perfect kick. That's exactly what you want to do right on the cusp of the end zone. So really good kickoff there from Michael Andrich, and not advantageous starting field position for the Cavaliers, who really need to string together a drive here. 2:52 left in the second quarter.
Take over once again at their 20. Again, they go to the ground. I believe that time the carry taken by number 28, a new ball carrier, Todd Hepler in the backfield, a freshman for the Cavaliers.
Really young backfield when your starter's a sophomore, your change of pace back is a freshman. He might be their passing downs back a little bit if they are going to go up tempo here and think about throwing the ball a lot.
Hartman had a lot of time, decides to bring it down, and that's a great decision. He's going to get up over the 35-yard line. So that's a gain of about 11 yards. It'll move the chains, and most importantly, he gets out of bounds with 2:18 and preserves those 2 timeouts. That's about as well as he could have done when he decided to tuck that and run. It's going to be a 1, maybe 2 read and tuck and go from Hartman. We've learned that through this first half. So if you're Gateway, you're going to want to keep eyes on him. They don't like playing a lot of zone coverage, but you got to have a linebacker. You got to have somebody there in this 2-minute drill situation. Nice crowd on hand here for what is a beautiful evening for the opening weekend of football here in Western Pennsylvania. Fresh set of downs for the Cavaliers at their own 35. Play action fake, rolling out a wide open receiver in the flats. That is that pass catching back. We just talked about Hepler, and he's going to have another first down here, but a flag comes out in the backfield. That's usually not a good sign for the offense.
Would certainly derail things. Good tackle there by Gans, being physical in the secondary.
Tackling's been great for the Gators thus far in this one. You've not seen many missed tackles. Taylor has maybe shrugged a few guys off, but that's to be expected from the talented sophomore back that had almost 700 yards on the ground last year. Otherwise, especially in the secondary, which was an issue last year for the Gators, candidly.
And when it's a backfield, like you mentioned, Artman's 205, right? Like they're very physical. Taylor's 200 pounds. That's no easy task for the defensive backs. And I think if you are Kiski thinking about the second half, how do you get those corners into the run fit more, right? How do you pull them closer to the line of scrimmage? They're really spreading things out, but maybe some more tight ends, maybe some more heavy personnel. Dare them to tackle you, but so far Gateway's been up to the challenge.
I do invite you to stick around during halftime. You see the bands play. Kiski always with a tremendous band program. Simply one of the best in the nation. So you won't want to miss that. The Gateway Gators band will debut their halftime show as well. Set up the screen. Great job staying patient. The Gators bit on it. Back gets out to the far sideline. Cavaliers wanted a flag as that tackle sort of continued into the sidelines, but it doesn't look like they'll get it. And it is a very positive gain for Hepler, who has seen a number of touches on this drive.
Really strong hands from Dancier because there was a lot of running room. If he broke out of that arm tackle, that's a huge tackle that could be like very significant in this game going forward. 1:35 left. It's going to be really tough to mount a drive here, but if he breaks that away, you're in really good situation to score if you're Kiski.
Cavaliers do a good job getting out of bounds again, so the clock does stop. They will not get as lucky this time. Pass will be complete for a gain of about 4. They're back to the original line to gain, which is the 35. But that clock going to keep running. They're going to get back to the line here on 3rd and 10.
Nazir Diggs on the outside hasn't been out-leveraged at all by the 6'3" McNeil. Kiski hasn't tried to test that matchup very much, but Diggs is a pretty sticky cover corner. He's mostly been following McNeil around. That's a tough just size matchup, so maybe in the red zone, something like that, trying to move the chains, Kiski could try to lean on that size advantage, but so far Diggs has kept him pretty quiet.
Gators decide to take their second timeout, up 17, not having allowed points yet. They want to make sure that they've got that defensive unit fully set and sound.
I think maybe they want to take another shot, potentially.
I mean, it's have
3rd and long here, right? You've got a quarterback you really trust. Maybe it's still early in the season. You want to see him in a 2-minute drill situation. I mean, you want to get the right defensive play call here, obviously, but I think they might be trying to take another bite at the apple as well.
Just a beautiful evening tonight, folks. 72 degrees. It's not too humid. I mean, comparatively speaking, now. All the locals, I'm sure we got folks tuned in from all over, and we thank you for joining us here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. But it has been a hot, humid August with a lot of rain, but today, beautiful sunny skies, a perfect evening. And so far, so good for the Gators, who are looking to try and get the ball back here, get this defense off the field on 3rd and 10. They'll bring the pressure. Artman going to roll, going to run. He's not going to get there. And do the Gators call their 3rd timeout? It appears they will. So Don Hall, with some great clock management, he's going to get the ball back into the hands of his offense here in all likelihood. As Kiski going to bring that punt team out after failing to pick it up here on 3rd and 10.
And ultimately, Khalid Harper, the linebacker on the outside, didn't make the sack, right? But that's a really nice pressure package from Gateway. Everybody up on the line, 2 linebackers mugged up. It makes it really difficult for the offensive line to know their assignments. They ended up only rushing either 4 or 5, but they had one free. Kiski had a tight end in, right? They had extra help, but when you use those simulated pressure packages, you're either trying to create one-on-ones where there shouldn't be or free rushers where there shouldn't be, and that's what Gateway got that time by dropping out those linebackers. And then they still had bodies once Artman scrambled. If you go cover 0 there and you miss that free runner, he's off to the races, but you had depth to your defense because you dropped out of it.
It is looking like, at least from a...
They're going to go for it.
They're going to go for it. Now, keep in mind, Artman has been the punter.
Yeah.
We do see at the high school level some of the pooch punts, and we might just see them try to draw with 2 timeouts remaining, draw the Gators off, as the Gators were able to do earlier. They're going to go for it. Deep in their own territory, 4th down, Artman trying to extend the play, and he gets crunched. Michael Burrows and Khalid Harper going to sandwich him right at the line of scrimmage, and the Gators not only will take over with the clock stopping on downs at 1:11, but they've only got 40 yards to go. This half, so far, Josh, could not be going better for the Gateway Gators.
And not to mention, you've got a kicker who's already hit from 40, right? So you don't even have to go all the way. That is a very bold decision by a first-year head coach who's 27 years old, right? You're feeling the pressure maybe a little bit. Things haven't gone your way in this first half, but you punt that away. You trust your defense to get you into halftime 17-0.
Well, because the Cavaliers are going to get the ball coming out in the second half.
Yeah. That's a really bold decision, and one that could allow Gateway to really extend this lead.
Less than 10 yards away from field goal range. They go over the top. Good coverage there on the outside. So far, so good. We saw Davion McNeil make a really nice play in the end zone. He's right there step for step with the speedster Stammer, and it'll be second down.
Little sluggo on the outside from Stammer. McNeil did bite on it, but he's just got so much length that he's going to be able to recover really quickly, even against the 3A 100-meter champion. And now this is potentially a pretty big problem for Gateway as Dylan Graham off the field, but eventually off under his own power, the 6'3" junior left tackle.
Yeah, certainly someone who arrived last year for the Gators and played some meaningful snaps as an underclassman, now a junior, more in the mix on both sides of the ball, and good to see him get off the field all on his own, as the training staff will look at him here with 1 minute and 5 seconds until halftime.
Problems now as Gateway backed up by a holding call on that play as well.
Makes it 1st and 20. They'll just try to get a chunk of that back here with a screen, and they do. And the ball comes out, and it's going to be recovered inbounds by the Cavaliers. And Dan Sears' tough night goes from bad to worse as his first real impact play ends with a turnover.
Was just going to say, finally Dan Sears with a little bit of breathing room, right? Finally some space to make a play, and he does. Really nice catch and run. Well-designed screen. Had blockers in front of him. Just tries to make this cut back to the inside. He's got that ball on the inside arm, and it gets punched out from behind. Situation like that, the clock ticking down, you have no timeouts left. Just get out of bounds and stop that clock.
Well, and credit where it's due on the other side of the ball. I mean, that is the guy on the defensive side of the ball. We've talked all night about Anderson, but Tegan Shirley is someone that Coach Timmons has said is probably their most athletic player. Had 75 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles last year. So picking up right where he left off, the all-conference selection in the Big East. Artman takes over on 1st down. He's going to air it out, and I think that's a catch.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. What a beautiful little toe tap there. We had a great view of it. It was pretty much right in front of us up here in the booth, Josh. And I think that's a catch. We'll take another look here. Bryce Bowman.
I certainly think so. I think that's almost maybe a catch in the NFL. We'll have to take a look at it.
I think we got both down.
Yeah, really good sideline awareness. Excellent hands to high point that, catch it away from your body with the strong hands. And how about the throw from Artman, right? We haven't seen a ton from him there other than, the start of that play where he's making this day miserable for Khalid Harper. Very difficult to bring down. Harper with a ton of pressure, nothing to show for it yet, but a great play there by quarterback and receiver.
Harper again and again comes up empty. Artman throws a duck, and the receiver going to take a huge shot right as that ball came in. And
I think Dancier timed that up perfectly. It's a violent hit, but I think he timed that perfectly because I think the ball hit his helmet before he hit the receiver.
well, we got a replay from our talented crew, and we're going to see it right here. Not the best throw, and
yeah, the ball hits the back of Dancier's helmet before he collides with the receiver. So once you touch that ball, it's not pass interference anymore. It's a violent hit, maybe up around the head. So if you want to talk about a flag for that, that's a conversation. But in terms of pass interference, just not the case on that one.
play clock was winding down. And so the Cavaliers will take their second timeout with 39 seconds left. They were able to get the turnover, and now they're looking to try and make something happen. The Cavaliers will get the ball to start the second half. The Gators defense is bent but not broken thus far tonight, and they're trying to hang on here, take that goose egg into the halftime locker room.
And Artman, his toughness, physicality in the pocket, he's just really tough to bring down. It's paid off in a number of ways. It hasn't paid off for like a big strike like that. That time, a coverage bust on the back end. Gateway kind of sold out with a lot of pressure, able to slip the sack. That's when you should hit for that big play. Just didn't have the arm strength to cash that check.
Let's take a look while we have a moment during this timeout at the revamped Greater Allegheny Conference, where Kiski now calls home for one of the smaller classifications. So you'll see not a whole lot of teams here in section play. They'll take on the Talbots, the Indiana Indians, who are hosting my alma mater tonight, the Freeport Yellow Jackets, way up north. Big team there to watch, the McKeesport Tigers with the phenom.
Five-star running back. Yeah, he's fantastic. Georgia commit.
Did you read in the Post-Gazette that he is going to make, between his NIL deals, probably a cool mill playing at Georgia next year?
Certainly believe it.
Unreal.
He's that type of talent. And a running back is one of the positions that you can make a real impact as a freshman. He's that type of prospect.
Deep shot here. That one over top, but a lot of hands on the jersey there. That is going to be a penalty against Nazir Diggs.
Diggs pretty grabby. That's an uncomfortable situation when you know you don't have the catch radius advantage, right? Maybe you want to just play through the hands, but Diggs caught a little flat-footed, didn't trust his speed. He recovered. He actually caught up. He was in good position. He didn't need to be as grabby as he was, but that's just a really uncomfortable position to be in, especially when you see those hands go up.
We talked about McNeil and the size advantage all night. At 6'3", 160 pounds. And he was able to get those mitts up and make life uncomfortable, as you said. And Cavaliers able to get a couple penalties to move themselves to the 39-yard line of the Gators. And again, the clock stops. Kiski still with a timeout in the back pocket and a chance. We don't know what the kicking game looks like. Certainly, they're eyeing up a touchdown here. It's still going to be a two-score game no matter what going into the half. But 6, 7, 8 points, certainly giving yourself a little momentum and the chance to double dip on the other side of the break. The Cavaliers have a real opportunity to make this a game here in these final 32 seconds.
McNeil in the slot.
Artman again scans his options. He's just going to wisely trot out of bounds after a nominal gain and live to fight for another play with the clock stopping at 25 seconds.
Short game.
Gateway dropping out of what was kind of a pressure look into a zone coverage. Confused Artman enough that he's just going to tuck it down. When he doesn't see that clear picture right away, he takes off and runs.
And very wise play there from two upperclassmen, Harper and Jackson Smith. Not laying the boom, just sort of giving the presidential escort out of bounds to Artman. And that is a win for the Gators, as it is 2nd and 7 on the left hash.
Pressure look again.
Artman with time, goes deep, has a man inside the 10. Diggs able to recover and lay the boom, and the ball came out, and they're going to call that an incomplete pass.
Wow.
I don't know, Josh. I thought that he might have made a little bit of a football move moving forward there, but it certainly was bang, bang.
Diggs closed on that really well. That zone coverage broke down, The official on that far side is going to have a much better look at if that ball came out, and he immediately pointed at the ground. So I imagine it's quite definitive, but I don't know that we're going to get a better shot than that at that play. But again, that's a situation where Artman has it open, just can't put enough zip on it to really cash in. Diggs, excellent recognition in zone coverage. This is a Gateway defense that plays a lot of man. I was going to say that's another thing about that pass interference on that Diggs got called for on McNeil. He's usually up in press, so he's used to just running with the receiver. He's going to trust his long speed so he doesn't get so uncomfortable. When he's playing off like 10 to 12 yards, he's flat-footed when the receiver gets to him, so he's got to flip his hips and recover a little bit more than he's maybe used to. So I think that added to the uncomfortability and the grabbiness that you saw. That time he's flat out in zone coverage, which he doesn't do a ton of. Reacts on the ball really quickly, closes, and makes a huge hit. That's an excellent play by the corner. And now it looks like they're going to give him the catch. Wow.
So the call is overturned. It is a catch.
That official was adamant about it on the far side.
So the Cavaliers with the fade route back of the end zone. And that one in and out of the hands of the talented receiver, Davion McNeil. Gators catch a break there.
Darrell Hester, 6'1" on the other side, so he can match that catch radius maybe a little bit more. Never got his head around, but wasn't super grabby, so it didn't draw that flag.
Time certainly still a factor for the Cavaliers. 10 seconds left. Ball at the 8-yard line. Ideally, probably 3 more shots to the end zone here for the Cavaliers. If they can go quick, they do have the timeout in the back pocket.
McNeil one-on-one with Diggs to the top. Might have help over the top with Dancier, though.
Dancier is coming over that way. No flag. And that will bring up 3rd down. So a little game of cat and mouse here. And the Gators able to come away. Great coverage by Diggs. That throw not quite on the mark.
Both sides kind of engaged in that hand fighting, but if you're Artman, you're leading him too much with that throw. You want to go back shoulder, you want to go up top. That's where his advantage lies.
Four seconds come off the clock. Will this be the last play of the first half? Cavaliers looking for points. Big play upcoming. They'll get it into the flats. Receiver falls, and better that one comes up incomplete. Cavaliers see the clock stop now with 2 seconds left, and they'll have one more shot at it here.
I like that play call. You have the rub route with your number 1 receiver who's going to draw a lot of attention, maybe pull that safety with them as well. But another situation where they run that play into the boundary instead of the wide side of the field, so your running back has no space, even if he caught that ball.
Seth Duda going to try and put 3 on the board from 25 out on the right hash. And that one sails through. So the Cavaliers do get points before the halftime break. 17-3 will be our score. The Gators score the first 17 points. And that Dancier fumble opens the door ever so slightly for the Cavaliers. But still, after 1 half of play, if you're Don Hall, you're never happy. No coach is ever happy. But you got to feel pretty good about how your team presented itself with some moving parts. Week 1 is always a bit of a question mark. The Gators have provided some answers.
Yeah, and you got to feel especially good about your quarterback, right? That's going to be the first thing you talk about always. But when it's a sophomore, his first full year as a starter, he's looked excellent. Some great throws downfield, taking what the defense is giving him. That passing game looks really solid, and it seems like they've figured out a pretty good protection plan against Anderson after they left him one-on-one early and paid the price for it a couple of times. But now that they seem to have those things figured out, how do you get the run game going? Because that's kind of more of an existential question. Maybe in this game it's not so much of a problem. You can rely on the quick game. I think they probably really trust Mitchell not to put the ball in harm's way. Although there have been a couple instances, but that's high school quarterbacks. Going forward, do you you find any answers on the ground, and how do you get to them? They tried the under center stuff, tried some shotgun stuff. I think they might need to get a little bit more creative and find some staples in the run game in the second half. That would be a goal if I'm Don Hall going into halftime.
Your point's well made. You're looking at an offense that can't be one-dimensional, going against Woodland Hills, going against Penn Trafford, and then, not putting the cart in front of the horse, but 5A is about as deep a classification. So if you get into the postseason, you're going to be able to have to throw some different looks at teams.
But a lot of positives nonetheless, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's like the one thing that you would maybe want to talk about. You're ahead 17-3 against a team you played really close last year that returned its quarterback, returned its running back, returned its 4-star interior offensive and defensive lineman. Yeah, and this is a really good early showing from Gateway, so they got to be feeling really good about things offensively and defensively as well. Like you said, they're tackling really well against a team that should be tough to bring down. Now, does that continue early in the season? It's a nice night. Still some humidity, still some heat, cramping issues, like attrition comes into play, especially against a team as physical as Kiski.
The Gators set the table in the first half, Josh, but we've seen second halves be a bit of a slog these past couple years, including last year's 34-31 decision where the Gators did come out on top here at Antamarino Stadium, but not without a few scares at the end. We're going to throw it to the halftime break. The Kiski band is out on the field. We'll toss it over that way, and when the bands are done, we'll return for second half action with the Gators up 17-3 over the Cavaliers here on GatewayGatorProductions.com.
I was going to sit there.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2026 Kiski Cavalier Marching Band.
You can even pull that out.
Consider again, Red Dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam.
On behalf of the entire Kiski marching band, boosters, and staff, we'd like to thank everyone for watching us this evening. We look forward to playing for you again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to the field the 2026 Gateway High School Marching Band. The band is proud to present our 2026 competition show titled The Weight of Water, featuring the music of Adele, Franz Schubert, Camille Saint-Saëns, Frédéric Chopin, and Florence and the Machine. Tonight, the Gateway Marching Band will perform Movement 1 of their production. And now, the Gateway Music Department is proud to present Drum Major Ben Sprawl and the Gateway High School Marching Band. with assistance from Dave Verno, Casey Burke, Caitlin Dodson, and Jeremy Roth, with color guard direction by Beth Costin and Gina Gottman. The Gator Band would like to extend well wishes to the Kiski Band for a fantastic season. Also, don't miss the Gator Marching Band compete at Pinto Marching Band competitions throughout the season. Our next competition is September 12th at Kiski Area High School. For more details, visit pinto.org. See you there, and thanks again for your kind support.
Here's the winner of the 50-50. Please take out your tickets. The winner gets $288. Please report to the upper concession stand to pick up your prize. 948-052. That's 948-052. Please report to the upper concession stand to pick up your prize.
Half number one in the books. Gators find themselves out in front 17-3, 17 unanswered points to start that first half, Josh. And Julian Dancier's fumble really opened the door for the Cavaliers, and now the all-important big first drive out of the half. And Kiski with an opportunity to make this a one-score game potentially.
First-year head coach Braden Timmons for Kiski. What adjustments did he make coming out of halftime, and what are we going to see from that Kiski offense, from that Kiski defense? I think the offense, generally they're going to be more of the same, right? They're going to really try to establish the run game, Maybe they have a few wrinkles that they're going to work off the option stuff with the quarterback and running back run game. But defensively, how can they vary up the looks along the line of scrimmage to try to get Anderson some more one-on-ones? Because he was wrecking things very early on, because he's just going to bull rush and push basically any offensive guard right back into the lap of the quarterback and the WPIAL. But when you can double team him and you have a static picture of that defensive line, you don't have any questions about what the assignments are going to be, you can hold up fairly well. Gateway's shown that with those double teams. So how defensively is Kiski going to be a bit more aggressive? Because they're going to have to be to try to take things away, maybe force some turnovers. They had a turnover that led to their only points. They're going to need to go a little bit deeper into the bag here in week 1 than maybe they anticipated to try to come back in the second half.
We are about ready to start that second half, with the Cavaliers getting the ball first, as we talked about, and the Gators headed on the defense in all likelihood here to start. Gators in the new and improved black home uniforms, and Josh, we joked off the air before the game, an announcer's best friend. Those numbers are huge, and the contrast in them, those bright white numbers, we can see those from outer space, and that is super helpful for our job, that's for sure. I'm sure the camera operators tonight are grateful as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't do it for us, but it was the first thing I noticed when I got here tonight, that's going to be an absolute dream. So big thanks. The black and white contrast always helps, but they could go with some gold, something a little less legible. This is perfect.
Will kick off for the Gators.
Cavaliers in the road, white uniforms with blue numbers, white helmets, gold pants with blue stripes. And it'll be Michael Andrich putting boot to ball to start this second half. Couple touchbacks in the first half. This one takes a bounce and is corralled inside the 5-yard line, going across the field and getting up over the 15, but not quite to the 20. There's number 15, Bryce Bowman, who we saw make an absolutely gorgeous toe tap grab in that first half. This time, he kind of was forced into picking that one up, Josh, and the Cavaliers, once again, going to have a long way to go.
Yeah, I think maybe they flipped around their returners because McNeil was on that side earlier in the game. So able to get that ball in the hands of Bowman, who I think would be their preferred option as far as the kick return game goes. And maybe they can get the ball in his hands a little bit more offensively, because he's shown that he can make some great catches, as you mentioned.
So as we talked about, a big drive here for the Cavaliers, who are able to get 3 points on the board from their place kicker. And this one going to get stood up. First carry of that first drive of the second half. Back into the arms of Ashton Taylor, who had a pretty productive first half. They sort of went away from him as the half went on, and we saw a heavy helping of Todd Hepler, especially in the passing game out of the backfield. Perhaps the Cavaliers here in a non-conference game, just trying to see what kind of depth they have in the backfield.
Yeah, definitely. But I also think there is an aspect of one's going to be the early down back and one's going to be the late down back, because Hepler, they were throwing to him a little bit more. Not sure how they feel about either of them in pass coverage, but they didn't ask, or in pass protection, they didn't ask much of either of them. But on early downs in a run-first situation, Taylor's going to be the one toting the route.
Taylor with another productive carry, gains about 6 yards, and is going to have a first down for the Cavaliers. So 2 quick carries, and they move the chains and move that ball out past the 30 to the 31-yard line.
And I think going under center is going to be beneficial to Taylor's running style. He's a load to tackle, but he needs some build-up speed, especially because he is a little bit upright as a runner. So if you give him that runway, he's going to be really tough to bring down.
And in motion is Bowman. Now 2 receivers on both sides of Artman, who is back in the gun. And a handoff out of the backfield, and Jackson Smith and Khalid Harper, they had a big first half between the two of them. They pick up right where they left off. Not quite a tackle for loss, but not a whole lot going there for the Cavs.
And obviously nothing there as a running back, but that longer mesh just doesn't lend itself as much to Taylor's running style. And you saw the defender, Jackson Smith, was able to just take him down on first contact.
Second and long for the Cavaliers, who were able to move the ball in bunches, short bunches, with a mixture of run and short pass. As the half went on in the 2-minute, we saw a couple throws downfield, including a controversial, what looked like incompletion. It became a completion for long yardage, as there a pass out into the flats. Productive second down play. The reception hauled in by the tight end, Caleb Varner.
And some tight end usage is something that I mentioned late in that first half as a potential way for Kiski to get an advantage here, forcing the defensive backs to tackle, forcing them to get involved a little bit more around the line of scrimmage. Really good tackle that time. Like, these corners for Gateway have been willing to put their nose in it tonight, and that's really important.
Third down upcoming. 3 yards needed for the Cavaliers. They'll go back under center with Taylor, the lone setback. And it's going to be a quarterback sneak from 3 yards out. And I think they might have got 2, but I don't know that they got all 3. The ball came out before any whistles, but they're going to mark that one down, and they're going to mark it a first down. It looked like the spot from where we could see was short.
First down.
The Cavaliers get just enough to move the chains and to keep this drive alive.
Certainly didn't look like on that replay he was down when that ball came out. I know the whistle maybe had blown for forward progress. Interesting spot and just interesting play all around, but the QB sneak from about 3 yards out paying some dividends for the Cavaliers.
Helps when you got a big man under center. Hartman, as we talked about, over 6 foot, over 200 pounds. They go back to the ball carrier. Taylor in the backfield. He is swallowed up again by this talented linebacking crew, and that's going to be a loss of 2 yards.
And it looks like Kiski at times is flipping around its offensive line. I think Anderson has been at both tackle spots. So that's something that's becoming in vogue a little bit in college football. I know Vanderbilt did it last year, where they just flip they have a pass blocking side and a run blocking side, so they'll flip the strength of that offensive line. Maybe that's what Kiski's trying to do, but I do think it's led to some miscommunication because we've seen a lot of free runners tonight.
Good time to throw here for Hartman, and he's got a man, and that ball just beyond the outstretched arms. Looked like it was a house call and waiting for Davion McNeil, but that one just sails a little far beyond the receiver.
A decent throw that time. You're just trying to lay it out there for the receiver, but it looked like McNeil was running more of a true post, and Hartman led him a little bit more upfield, and the margins are pretty slim when you're trying to hit a deep shot like that, which I imagine is a lot of the Gateway philosophy defensively. Is it's going to take a really good throw and catch for you to beat us over the top, so we'll play a lot of press coverage.
Gators certainly catch a break there, and what looked like it might be points for Kiski area now turns into a 3rd and long situation on their side of the field, with the Gators showing blitz. They'll back the linebackers off, but still some pressure in the backfield. Hartman going to try to do it with his legs, and he's going to get there. Slides down past midfield to about the 47-yard line. And the Cavaliers on this all-important drive are into Gateway territory.
Khalid Harper has had a fantastic day in terms of beating the man in front of him, and he has not been able to finish yet. The junior linebacker, tons of pressures in this one, and that's that debate of pressure versus sack. Obviously, a sack is going to be more valuable. A pressure is still very valuable, but against a scrambling quarterback like this, sometimes it leaves a running lane. So maybe a bit more rush lane discipline, more of a mush rush could be the way to go for Gateway defensively.
Back to the ground go the Cavaliers. Taylor able to spin away from a would-be tackler. Now he's got some green in front of him. 20, 15, 10, and down at about the 7-yard line. And we talked about it in the first half, Josh. A running back like Taylor is one of those guys that just gets harder to tackle as the game goes on.
Yeah. Body blows, body blows, body blows. Looked like he was wrapped up by a couple of Gators, spun out of it. Then he was difficult to bring down for Antonio Fallow, the sophomore safety. Jaden Stammer, we haven't seen that track speed on offense. We finally saw it there on defense, and it saves the touchdown.
And reminiscent of this game last year between these two teams, we've got ourselves a Kiski area team knocking on the door trying to make this a one-score game. Gators were able to force the Cavaliers to a field goal attempt and make, and there a big play in the backfield as knifing through uncontested is Dorian Bell, who's able to make the stop to the tackle for loss.
I haven't talked about Bell much, but he's got like legit college defensive tackle size at 6'3", 270. And he showed some pretty good quicks there, winning immediately and being able to finish that play. Big defensive tackles for Gateway. Usually those guys are space eaters, but we've seen Reed and Bell both penetrating into the backfield and causing tackles for loss.
With both of these teams throwing a heavy dose of run in, the Cavaliers have used up over half of this third quarter already.
Yeah.
And this is what we thought we would see from the Cavaliers, and you talked about it really well in the first half, Josh. I think ultimately this looks like what the Cavaliers want to get to, sort of that rough and tumble offense, sort of just trying to 3 yards in a cloud of smoke.
Don't forget,
We got a timeout here, and we'll take a look at the upcoming broadcast schedule here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. Gators using,
some last-minute refreshments.
rather the
for this
Kiski area
evening.
Cavaliers using their first time out of the second half. Gives us as good a time as any to talk about some of the great stuff you're seeing again, the new and improved graphics from our talented crew. We got some boys soccer coming up on the horizon. Girls soccer as well against the Bethel Park Blackhawks. We will have next Friday night's contest just down the road at Penn Hills High School, a great rivalry matchup. Don Hall talked about how great it is to get some of these local rivals on the schedule. We'll have some boys and girls soccer, a little doubleheader action here at Antamarino Stadium before we head out west toward the airport, over to Imperial, Pennsylvania to take on West Allegheny. Another one of those newcomers to 5A, but a program with a lot of history, especially under Bob Palco, who spent so many years at the helm of that program. Cavaliers back in action here. A little dump-off pass. That's going to be a positive gain, and the receiver out of the backfield gets popped, but not before a nice little gain, and Landon Wright. The Cavaliers in business here, 3rd and goal inside the 5.
We saw this play in the first half as well. Hard sell, split zone look. Kiski's entire offensive line goes the other way, and against the flow, they have an easy completion, a nice little catch and run. Set up shop in a really good spot here. I think smart by Kiski not to abandon what they do offensively, right? They're still trying to move the ball on the ground. They're still sticking with the option stuff, the short passing game, and it's working to great effect on this drive.
3rd down for the Cavaliers. And a broken play. Artman going to take it himself. Lunges into the end zone. And don't look now, but the Cavaliers are back within 1 score with a chance to make it just a 7-point lead for the Gators, who led by as much as 17 early in the first half. And now we've got a player down on the field for the Gateway Gators. A couple injured Gators. One in the end zone, one at about the 5-yard line. And that is not a good look there. Khalid Harper, the junior, who, as you said, Josh, has been here, there, everywhere, all over the field, especially defensively, not able to put any weight on that left leg, also coming off a little gingerly, albeit under his own power, as Michael Burrows. So you talk about worst case scenario, 2 of your 3-star linebackers, coming up with a little hitch in their giddy up, as Adam Gusky likes to say.
Yeah, Harper has been flying all over the place. I don't want to speculate. I think it's a cramp in his case, as they knock that extra point through to make it 17-10. And that would be great news for Gateway, because he's been a terror off the edge so far tonight.
I mean, he certainly has traveled a lot of distance in the backfield alone.
He's been running all over the place. He's been chasing Artman around. He hasn't really been able to get him on the ground much. And it's been pretty much that same story. Pressure off the edge, Artman spins out of it, and he's just having a really tough time tackling him. I imagine that gets tiring after a little bit, trying to get some fluids in him now. So I imagine probably a cramp as we take another look at it. Probably a broken play there, as you said.
It looked like he wanted to get that ball into Taylor's hands. Taylor went right, Artman spun left. Hard to say who was at fault, but Artman able to use that frame to his advantage to get into the end zone. All 6'2", 205, and and we have ourselves a one-score game with a Gators offense that hasn't touched the ball in what feels like over an hour. Will they be able to come out and pick up where they left off when the sun was still out? Kiski area using 7 minutes and 10 seconds on that drive that started inside their own 20. They marched the length of the field. No real big splash play, Josh, just an assortment through the or on the ground, through the air, picking up chunk yardage.
And it seemed like they were chasing points at the end of the first half, right? They went for it in their own territory, nearing the 2-minute mark.
So turn here, freshman receiver able to dance away from a few would-be tacklers, but eventually Landon Reed going to get upended at about the 22-yard line, laying the boom there. Number 26, Landon Wright.
And to that point, like, Kiski went for it, got stuff, gave up the ball, and potentially gave up a chance to double dip, right? It seemed like they could have gone into the half. They were going to get the ball back. They chased points. Gateway had a chance for kill shot is strong, but to really put a lot of pressure on, the Dancier fumble opened the door again. Then Kiski is able to double dip with that field goal and then coming back with a touchdown. And I think it's credit to Timmons, the young first-year coach on that sideline. Panic is a strong word again, right? But he was clearly chasing it at the end of the first half. Coming out of the second half, just settled into what they do offensively and able to march right down the field.
First down, they'll go back to Dancier, who's able to get out to the right side. He'll get to the 25 for a gain of about 2.5 yards.
No real running room for him there, trying to bounce that to the outside. And Taylor's just a really sure tackler at the second level.
Josh, you talk about, it looked like the Gators were ready to blow this one wide open, ball inside their opponent's 40, up 17-0 with timeouts and less than 2.5 minutes to go. Instead, the turnover allows Kiski to get a few points on the board as Dancier able to hang on to the ball this time, and a nice gain out to midfield. The Gators have had no issues moving the ball as Dancier comes up with what looks like a little bit of a cramp.
And watch Dancier here on this screen. It's almost the exact same play that he fumbled on at the end of the first half. Has the ball in that left arm, switches it to that right arm. He still cuts back to the inside, and ultimately, like, it's at harm a little bit, but kept it high and tight. So that's correcting a mistake. Like that in the film room, obviously, after this game, not going to get high marks for that fumble, but immediately correcting your mistake is something that a head coach is going to really like to see.
So Dancier hopefully able to get stretched out and back into this contest. He is able to move the ball on 2 plays from the 22 to the 48. So 2 touches, 26 yards. Obviously, most of those coming on that 23-yard completion.
And now it's Reed in the backfield, which is interesting. We've seen him get some opportunity outside as like the ex-receiver in this offense.
Reed out of the backfield. They're going to go his way, and that one sails on Mitchell a little bit. Not a whole lot to work with there, as right in front of Reed was the lanky Davion McNeil that we've talked about all night long.
This play design is looking to bring McNeil down to Carter, and it looked like he was going in that direction a little bit, but I don't think Reed went deep enough in his route. So a really long corner like McNeil is able to cover the ground both ways, and that would have just taken an excellent throw to really feather that in a tight spot on a corner route out of the backfield.
2nd and 10 now for the Gators. Again in the gun, they'll go to Reed out on the outside, and he's going to be dropped for a loss. Another strong tackle on the outside. Lorenzo Price, the junior linebacker, read that one well and makes a sure tackle in the backfield.
Yeah, kind of that overhang nickel defender. You're going to need to be a really good tackler. Fights through that initial contact. You can't really block until that ball's out of the hands of the quarterback, right? So just not able to get in the way of the defender enough, the gateway receiver, and then Reed bears the brunt of it. 3rd and very long here. What's the pressure package from Kiski?
Good time for Mitchell. Steps into the throw and misses the wide open receiver in Jaden Scammer. And they had the play drawn up perfectly, but that throw just off the mark, and the Gators have to punt it back to the Cavaliers.
And this is something that Mitchell had an issue with last season. He's got a really good arm, but how do you layer into that second level? And that's an advanced throw to make, so certainly a lot to ask of still a young quarterback, but that's where the development has to come, right? You need to be able to put some touch on that throw, layer it over the first defender, in front of the second defender, back-to-back throws. We saw him kind of struggling with that just on way too much of a line.
Levi Nordy a bit late getting onto the field, but the Gators get it off with a few seconds to spare, and it's a fair catch taken at about the 22-yard line. So another solid punt by Mikkel Andrich, not quite as long as the first. That'll be 78 yards for the Kiski area Cavaliers. That's what separates them from tying or going ahead potentially in this game.
It sounds like their fans,
they traveled well.
Yeah.
It's a good crowd down there. We got a chance to pop out where our camera operators are and take a peek down, and it is a great crowd on a beautiful Friday evening here in late August.
and now they have a lot of life because Kiski's got a chance to tie this game up. Their offense looked really strong on that last possession, and there you see them flipping the offensive line.
This is a team that has a lot of pieces back from last season, so there's going to be some composure. They remember clawing back into the game against the Gators, and credit, like you said, to this coaching staff led by Braden Timmons, a first-year man, able to keep his team resilient and believing in this game.
And I really wonder with flipping the offensive line if that's something that Kiski would be doing if Cody Carrion, their senior tackle, 6 foot 200, so already pretty undersized, didn't have a cast on his right hand. We've seen him have a lot of problems in pass protection. I imagine because of it, you just can't get your hands inside really at all. So obviously you want to play to the strength of your elite offensive lineman, have him leading the way in the run, even if it's a bit of a tell which way the run's going. When you're playing from shotgun, where the running back is a tell anyways, so you're relying on the misdirection of the quarterback and the option play there. You just have the better offensive lineman on that side. That's a worthwhile advantage. But also when your other tackle is dealing with, I imagine, some type of injury and has a cast on one of his hands, then it even further emphasizes the need to flip things around.
Julius Clark back into the game. He was getting stretched out with some cramping issues, and a timely return to the game as Jaquan Reed going to be missing on this third down play. He lost his helmet on the last play per the rule book. Got to come out for a play. And will that open some holes here on third down? A wildcat snap straight to the ball carrier, Taylor. He lunges forward to about the 38, which is very close to that line to gain, and it looks like he is going to have enough. We saw similar plays on that last drive where Kiski, and we saw a 3-yard quarterback keeper just getting enough of a push up front to get that yardage and to keep these drives going. There's been nothing sexy about it. It has just been 3 yards in a cloud of dust and a couple short completions along the way. But they're low-risk plays, and the Cavaliers keep the offense moving. And
that's the thing with an offense like this, why it's valuable to have a quarterback like Artman who isn't going to take sacks. You can't have negatives. You can't get behind the chains if you want to play this way, but they don't really because of him.
Watch out. Here goes Taylor again. A big hole, and he is out over the 50-yard line. Into Gators territory. A flag comes down in the backfield, and that almost always means it's coming back. So the Gators might catch a break here, and the officials already gesturing. So this one going to go against the Cavaliers.
And that's similar to taking a sack, right? Now you end up behind the chains. Those are the negative plays you can't have. See if we can find where that hold was, maybe on that near side.
And it's always especially frustrating when it happens when the running back's already past you. Just let go at that point. I don't
Just
know
so tough to know.
It is. I don't know that either quarterback, check me if I'm wrong, has taken a sack tonight.
I don't believe so. Both have had really good pocket movement. If they have, it's been just like a very negligible loss on a scramble or something like that. But there have been really no sacks, and both have done it in very different ways, right? Artman, that physical presence who's just tough to bring down, and Mitchell just pretty elusive and aware, getting the ball out quickly, understanding when he's hot, really good pocket movement as well. This will march him back even further, and the self-inflicted wounds are what you cannot have when you want to be an offense like this that just stays on schedule and is going to be in an advantageous spot to run the ball.
Taylor with just a little bit of happy feet there. That's going to cost the Cavaliers, as you said, 5 yards, makes it first country mile, backed up all the way back to their own 23. And we'll see if they do have to snap the ball here. There's a 2-second difference between play clock and game clock. So this will likely be the last play of quarter number 3, which flew by, Josh. And I mean, unsurprisingly, the Gators only ran a few plays, a quick, not 3 and out, they had 1 first down. But on the other side, Kiski area just continues to round and pound. And so we're headed to quarter number 4 with a 1-score game.
And that's potentially the downside of that type of offense. When you end up in a negative game script where you're chasing things a little bit, you're going to salt the clock away. So when Kiski has a lead, it's going to be a terrifying team to play because they're just going to milk the clock away with these really long, methodical drives, staying ahead of the sticks. But when they end up behind, even if they stay committed to that, which is the right thing to do for them offensively, because they just don't really have the pass catchers, they don't have the quarterback to just stay, drop back there and sling it all around the field. There's still a drawback to it because the clock is just going to salt away, and you're going to end up in a situation where eventually you do have to speed things up.
1 quarter remains here in this inaugural game of the 2026 fall football season.
We talked about attrition early in the season, right? Still a little humid, still a little warm. Couple Gateway Gators on the sideline getting stretched out, dealing with cramps. We saw Harper have to come off the field after that touchdown with 1. Like we said, the Kiski running game kind of wearing on Gateway a little bit.
Julian Dancier continuing to get stretched out on the sidelines there on your screen.
And I don't think Harper back out there. Lee Williams, 5'10", 215 on the edge.
Hartman all kinds of times, still going to pull it down, and there might be the first sack of the night.
I think so.
And it is Jackson Smith, and he is fired up because that is a big-time second down play to force another 3rd and long. And we have a Cavalier down now with some cramps out on the outside. I think that might just be McNeil.
Looks like it, and that would be a big loss. Obviously, a cramp is a situation where you can maybe get him back in the game a little bit more quickly. But that time, Artman just couldn't escape the clutches of Jackson Smith. Just a really solid physical tackler, right? Really strong arm tackles for him. And that's what you need against a slippery quarterback like that.
And Smith has been doing it since he was a freshman.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who has made the starts. He's been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and he is a savvy veteran that has a proven track record for the Gators defense. And those are the kind of guys that come up with those kind of plays in these kind of situations that you anticipate will help get you across the finish line in a close game.
And again, there's pressure off the edge, but I don't know that that's really too much of a problem. It was Teron Gans who came around the edge. I think Kiski's okay with that. I'm pretty sure they're telling Carry-On with that cast on his arm, just usher them outside, right? Our quarterback is not dropping back 11 yards, 10, 11 yards. If they want to fly upfield, let them go. Guide them. Use their momentum against them. Let them run past your quarterback because then he'll have a running lane. Finally, Gateway had somebody coming behind it to plug that run lane. So if they're going to rush aggressively like that, it's better if it's Gans, who's your nickel defender, getting upfield that way, than if it's your edge and you have no one behind it.
3rd and 21. Gators looking to try and get off the field, get Mason Mitchell and company back on the field to build this lead back out that was up to 17. 10 straight points for the Cavaliers, and a great job here. They tried to set up the screen. Jackson Smith and the Gators defense able to sniff that one out. A valiant effort by Julius Clark as well, who's coming up with some cramps again, but got the job done.
And a good physical play by Lee Williams, right? He didn't get off that block at all, but he just held his ground, and that was enough to stymie the running back and allow his teammates to come up and make the tackle. Sometimes that's what you talk about along the defensive line. You just got to eat blocks. And sometimes that's everything because your teammates can then get there to make the play.
Now the Cavaliers punting with punters. Heels back inside the 10-yard line. It's going to be a fair catch. Very nearly gets through the mitts of Stammer, but he's able to fall on that one. And the Gators, once again, Josh, have had appreciably better field position all night long.
Yeah.
And now with a chance to maybe grind some clock down themselves here, put some points on the board, they start on the right side of the 50.
Yeah, it's the limitations of the Kiski offense. They get behind the sticks. They don't have a drop-back passing game, so they have to try screens, things like that. They're just not going to – I mean, few teams are equipped for 1st and 20, but especially a team like Kiski that doesn't like the drop-back game. Is Gateway equipped to hold a lead late in the 4th quarter when you're relying so heavily on your passing game? Even if it is quick passes and a lot of screen games, if you don't have a reliable run game, how do you salt this away with 10:36 left in the 4th quarter and a 7-point lead?
Not to mention your top back on the sideline with cramps. And the clock going to expire. Did Don Hall get the timeout? He did. And that will be the first charge timeout for the Gators here with 10:36 left in the game. But a great point, Josh. How do the Gators balance moving the ball and staying strengths-oriented with their offense while still trying to put themselves from a clock management perspective in a position, even if they can't score more points, to try and put themselves in as favorable position to come out of here with a win?
I think ultimately right now, if you are Don Hall, just keep the foot on the gas, because that's when your offenses look best. When you've opened things up, when Mitchell's throwing the ball downfield, when you're getting into those types of situations, and Kiski's going to have to still respect the run as long as you're in advantageous down and distance situations. So I think you continue to spread it out, continue to trust your quarterback to make plays, make big-time throws down the field. We've seen some issues with layering to the second level, things like that, but maybe just don't ask him to make those type of throws, right? There are different plays you can get to. He loves throwing the seam ball. He loves throwing the slants and over the middle routes where he really needs to put some zip on it. So rely on that stuff. Keep your foot on the gas. Don't worry about the clock yet, because if you score another touchdown, that's the best thing you can do with this drive, however long it takes.
High snap here on this first play. It's a crossing route. They'll get it into Reed's hands. He's able to outrun one would-be tackler inside the 10, down to the 5, and he's knocked out right inside that 5-yard line. A gain of 42 yards on an easy pitch and catch from Mitchell to Reed.
A 6-foot, 175-pound freshman wide receiver. You think about somebody who's like probably best at jump balls, going to be outside the numbers type of guy. He catches this ball and he turns into a wide receiver, or it turns into a running back rather. We saw him in the backfield, and you can see why there. He sets up his defender with that little high step, maybe a move to the inside, so he then has the angle to go to the outside. That is somebody who's very comfortable with the ball in his hands, and a huge play with that catch and run.
Simply outran Braden Bowman, and now the play clock going to expire again on the field, and finally the officials catch up to it. A good 2-3 ticks after it had hit 0. And now, is this a clock operation error? No, it is a delay of game. Don Hall not going to elect to use timeout number 2.
And I think the right decision probably there to keep it in your pocket.
Will be 1st and goal. It'll push them back to the 10-yard line. So the first sort of procedural miscue we see on the Gators tonight comes at a critical juncture as they look to extend this lead.
That's a tough thing after a big play like that. You have to remember, get your offensive line up there. If you're a quarterback, like, that's the procedural stuff that a young sophomore doesn't always have ironed out, but you're still in a good spot here, unless you're trying to run on to Ron Gans really late into the play. Yeah, that's going to be a penalty.
So a free play in the sense that nothing really matters here, even if it goes well. Mitchell just sort of throws that one out of the back of the end zone. And so another procedural penalty will take what was 1st and goal at the 5 back to 1st and goal at the 15.
Gans just running onto the field late. It didn't initially look like Gateway had 10 players out there, but I imagine so. Penalty nonetheless with him running forward. And now it looks like an injury, which may not be the worst thing for Gateway in this moment. They need to get on the same, assuming the player is healthy and everything, but they need to get things on the same page and settle down in the red zone so they can execute and actually get a playoff.
I mean, devoid of, if you strip the context of losing 10 yards to penalties, you've got 1st and goal at the 15, well within field goal range, a chance to make it a 2-score game once again, as Graham just going to get carried off the field by one of his teammates. Now that is going the extra mile. Jaquan Reed, like he was hitting the sled during practice, just gets low and carries his teammate over to safety.
Second time we've seen Graham go down with cramps. Left tackle in a situation where you're backed up, 1st and goal from the 15, presumably gonna pass. You certainly want your left tackle out there, but hopefully just a cramp and he only has to miss a few plays.
Gators will return to the field. Last positive play, play from scrimmage before the 2 penalties was a 42-yard connection. Gators started this drive at their opponent's 47. Now look into the end zone and through the hands of the intended receiver, Darren Gans. Having a tough stretch here, got called for the penalty, running onto the field late, and there just sort of lets that one get through the wicket.
And this is the type of touch that you wanted to see from Mitchell. Brian Keener, who came on at left tackle, held up well, good protection, decent coverage, but that's a perfect throw, right? That's a perfect throw over the shoulder, the right tempo, the right touch. Should have been a touchdown right through the hands of Gans, and now Gateway walking back even further with another penalty. It's looking like now it's going to be 1st and goal from the 25-yard line, and now a cramp on the far side. And I know we call it week 1 now, but it is looking like week 0 here in the 4th quarter.
Well, and I think I might have jinxed us, Josh. That 3rd quarter, blink and you miss it, and now this 4th quarter with the penalties and the cramping, this game has slowed to a halt. They got the gun out there, the muscle gun. What do you call that?
Massage gun, Theragun. They're all different brands now.
Down on the near sideline, the Gators, Dan Sear continuing to get worked on. Dylan Graham getting the muscle gun, as we talked about.
Dan Sear's the one who hasn't been back out there since he's dealt with whatever injury he has, so potentially something more serious, which would be a really tough loss for Gateway. They haven't had much of an answer in the backfield. They've just kind of opted to go empty much of the time since Dan Sear has been out.
Looks like they're still just sort of trying to massage those quad muscles out. Dylan Graham, same sort of deal over there, getting a lot of attention in that quad area. So the Gators have marched back 20 yards without running a full play due to penalties.
Flipping things around on the offensive line, Keener, who was in at left tackle for Graham, now at right tackle. Dorian Bell over at left tackle.
Little double screen, the pump fake, go get it to Stammer. Stammer, this is the guy you want. He's got the jets. He gets out to the outside. He's into the end zone, but a flag comes out. And it looked like there might have been some grabbing on the outside there, Josh. And Mason Mitchell beside himself, talking to who is likely the guilty culprit for the Gators, Antonio Fallow.
Yeah, that's a tough situation for Fallow. You don't know which way Stammer's going to go. You don't even really know where he is behind you. You're just trying to hold on to that block. But the second you see him go past you, you got to let go of that thing and let Stammer take his chances. So that's going to march Gateway back from that spot a little bit further. Really good play by Stammer. That's exactly what Gateway needed to do. And it's initially the screen was set up to the near side. Mitchell saw he didn't have numbers that way, saw it would have been blown up. Went back to Stammer on the other side. Some impressive poise from the young quarterback in what is a very chaotic situation right now. And then it goes for naught, and I think that's where the frustration came from.
Don Hall talked with the media prior to the season and Mitchell's leadership, that he's not afraid to call out his teammates, but that he calls them up, he says, not out, in a way of uplifting them. Hopefully some of that language there as the Gators, it's still 1st down, but they are now at the 26-yard line. And a zip there. You can tell he put a lot of oomph on that one. And again, it's Stammer Stammer fighting. Eventually gets walloped from behind, coming in to finish the job there. The 51, Cody Carrion all the way from the defensive line position, but not before a healthy gain there for Stammer, who gets the Gators back to the 10-yard line.
And these are the type of throws that Mitchell really likes. Over the middle, he can put some zip on it, doesn't really have to worry about the touch, put it right on his receiver, let him protect himself a little bit, and then Stammer ends up in the situation that every receiver certainly dreads, getting held up and not knowing what's coming from behind.
Got crunched, gets up, no issues, and they're going to go right back to him. Screen pass out to the right. Able to make one man miss inside the 5, dragging bodies down toward the goal line. And Stammer, an impressive gain of about 8 yards. And once again on that far sideline, we see Davion McNeil coming up with cramps.
Third down.
Stammer, we think of him as the speedster, and that's certainly true this time. Fighting through some tackles, a little stiff arm, just staying upright, riding that wave right down to the goal line. 3rd and goal from about the 2 or the 3 is a pretty good situation for Gateway to be in after you were 1st and goal from the 25.
Saw Stammer drag a few folks on the opening kickoff return, able to do it again. Under center now is Mitchell. He's going to hand it off, and it's Reed inside the 3-yard line. He is going to get stood up by a host of Cavaliers, and who else but Nicholas Anderson, the big-time Power 4 recruit with offers all across the nation. Just grabs him and drags him back to about the 5-yard line. Forward progress will put it at the 2.
Now it's a huge decision. 4th and goal at the 2. Looks like the offense is staying out there. I like the call, especially against an offense that doesn't have much of a passing game. Going to need to run it out of the goal line if you don't convert here. Play clock running down. Mitchell doesn't look like he has a play in yet.
It certainly looks like the Gators are going to use their second timeout with 7 minutes and 50 seconds left, playing some of that clock management game, allowing a few more seconds to tick off. And now I would not be surprised, and my unsolicited, armchair quarterback sort of viewpoint up here.
You got a headset on, it's solicited.
I think you take the points here. I think you take the 3. Michael Andrich has been excellent in this game in all facets of the punting, place kicking, kickoff duties. Make that a 2-score game again, and it starts to become time.
Yeah.
Does Kiski, with an offense that is not a big play offense, do they have enough time to put together 2 possessions that result in points? I'm not so sure.
And that's why ultimately I don't love this timeout, whatever they decide to do, because I think you need to have your mind made up about that on that 3rd down play. Right before that 3rd down play is snapped, if we get stopped here, is the offense coming back out, which it looks like it is, and in that case, we need to know what play we have so we don't have to burn that 2nd timeout. If that's your 1st timeout, I'm fine with it. Now you're only down to 1 in what's a very close game, and will stay close if they don't convert.
Mitchell under center again. Reed is the lone back with Dancier on the sidelines. And we have another timeout called, this time by the Cavaliers. They got a chance to get a look at what Don Hall had in mind on that 4th down play. Braden Timmons playing that chess game as the first-year head man for the Cavaliers. He wants to diagnose and try to counter defensively.
And now he's down to 1 timeout, potentially trailing. Again with that run-heavy offense that maybe needs the timeouts more than most in a come-from-behind situation. That just tells you how big of a play this is, right? I think both sides are saying, we feel like this is the game right here, so we need to have our best play, even if that means we have to burn a timeout on both sides.
Well, this game has been a ton of fun. 9 more on the docket for the Gators. A very quick look at their schedule. We'll be at Penn Hills and on the road at West Allegheny the week after that before coming home for Latrobe and Armstrong. And then it's a slew of conference games down the line from that point on. Where will we be when the calendar turns to October? When we look back at this game, who will be the ones that came out on top? 4th down for the 2-yard line. Handoff to the outside. It is Casey Carter, and he will not be denied. What a play call. And you go to your senior, and he gets it done.
Question the play call initially because you're going lateral so close to the end zone. But if you don't feel like you have the advantage in the trenches because of a guy like Anderson who's all the way into the backfield, right? If you hand that off going downhill, Anderson is probably going to blow that play up. Get the ball to your big physical tight end and dare their defensive backs to bring him down. They could not, and Gateway extends its lead.
Bad snap and hold. Michael Andrich still got that one to go through.
I think he kicked that off the ground. I'd love to see it.
I think it was totally on its side,
Yeah.
too.
That was really impressive.
He looks unfazed.
Yeah. And again, Don Hall talked about him as potentially being a weapon for this team. A 40-yard field goal today, that extra point, which could be pretty significant in this one. Seeing a lot from the kicker.
Let's take one more look at the Gators' schedule here now that we have a chance to catch our breath. The Gators back up 2 scores. And I think the thing that a lot of fans will look at is those last 3 weeks. 2 games of major consequence, both on the road. We'll have a 7:30 kickoff on the 16th of October out in Harrison City against the Penn Trafford Warriors. And it'll be the final game of the season at the Wolverine. I mean, what else could you ask for?
Yeah.
One of the best rivalries in the region, at one of the best venues in the region, with potentially playoff implications, even maybe conference title implications. Woodland Hills certainly looking to defend their crown. They haven't lost a conference game in the better part of 2 years.
I'll be honest, when I saw the schedule and I got the word that I'd be there for that one, I was very excited to make the trip out to Woodland Hills. That's going to be a really fun one at the end of the season. Long way to go till then, but that's going to be exciting.
This one certainly has had its share of excitement and fireworks as well. A deep kick by Michael Andrich, fielded right at the goal line by Bowman. He's able to get up to the 20 this time, but yet again, Kiski with a much further road to go than the Gators have all evening. You talk about the last 2 possessions. Gateway starting at Kiski's 47. Kiski starting at their own 20 with a long way to go.
And last season, this is a Gateway team, and you could even extend it back the last 2 years, that lost really close games on really thin margins, and it was stuff like special teams, it was stuff like turnovers, it was tackling in the defensive backfield, like these little things that you don't think of as like the number one must do when you're starting a season, but they were losing in those small margins, and they were losing really close games because of it and missing out on the playoffs. Today, they've done those things really well. Kick coverage has been excellent. Michael Andrich is proving himself to be like a legitimate additive kicker, which is very rare in high school football. Other than, one fumble, but you're going to have turnovers from time to time. They've protected the football well, so good showing in that regard so far.
Taylor takes it for a very short gain. Jaquan Reed in on the stop with Michael Burrows assisting as well, and now another injury and likely some more cramping. Certainly we hope that's all it is for Cody Carrion, who has played very well along that front for the Cavaliers. Kind of been all over the place tonight.
Yeah, and defensively, he's wreaked a good bit of havoc. Tough situation as an offensive lineman, only having really one hand at your disposal. But he's made the most of it, and like I said, it seems like he's given up a lot of pressure, but I also think that's part of the game plan. Like, I think they're happy to usher those edge rushers upfield because they know their quarterback is going to be going forward, moving downfield, and he's tough to bring down on his own. So we'll see whoever comes in at tackle to replace him, if they have kind of a similar approach of go ahead upfield, I'll help you get there. My quarterback's going to run and replace you.
Cavaliers quick to the line after the clock resumes. That clock running after the running play by Taylor that netted just 3 yards. Cavaliers going to need to pick the pace up here, get some chunk plays, down 2 scores this late, about midway through the 4th quarter. Hartman with a ton of time once again, but the pocket collapses. He tries to roll to his left, and again, Jackson Smith looming large in the biggest moment in this game. And you talk about 2 guys that have been big difference makers late in this game. Casey Carter, a senior. Jackson Smith, a senior.
And Jackson Smith, if you watch that pass rush, you only saw the very end of it in that replay. He recognized that he was matched up against Anderson. He had really no chance of getting to the quarterback, but he had his arm extended. He kept Anderson off his body, so he knew he could shed when Artman tried to scramble, and then he was able to make the tackle.
So now a quick 3 and out. And you see Kiski keep that offense on the field. I mean, I don't know that they maybe have much of a choice at this point, Josh, but I mean, this is worst case scenario, because if you turn it over, the Gators are going to get the ball right with that nose of the football touching the red zone. With an offense that just put together a spectacular short drive to make it a 2-score game.
And you really got to keep an eye out for Artman's legs in this situation. Smith has done an excellent job of that. I think you spy Burrows on this near side as well, and just make sure he doesn't beat you with his legs.
Artman, a lot of time, an open receiver, it's bobbled. The receiver is lit up, and the ball falls aimlessly to the turf. Good job by the DBs, not hitting too high, too low, and the Gators will get the ball back here on 4th down.
A good throw by Artman, had some separation over the middle, just wasn't brought in. And we saw earlier in this one, Bryce Bowman along the sideline, really strong hands, good spatial awareness to make an impressive sideline catch. That time over the middle, I think he brought his eyes down pretty quickly, knowing he was going to take a hit. And Burrows got good depth in his zone drop, and that's always what you ask from your linebackers when you need them to be playing zone. Get good depth so those routes don't go behind you, and you can deliver a hit like Burrows did to dislodge the football.
So the incompletion in and out of hands of the receiver puts an end to that drive prematurely for the Cavaliers, who go 4 and out rather. And now the Gators.
Full start on the quarterback. You don't see that very often.
He was ready to go, and no one else was. That is the right call. And the Gators, if they have one blemish here in this second half, it's been offensive penalties. We saw them go from 1st and goal at the 5 to 1st and goal at the 26 after 4 consecutive penalties. They were able to shrug that off and still get into the end zone. But when we just talked about some of those games at the end of the season, you cannot be your own worst enemy against some of the better teams in a deep 5A.
Dan Sear back out there now, which is going to be advantageous for the run game, but do you hand it off on 1st and 15? Looks like no.
They are going to take a shot across the field, and that one led just a bit too far. The intended receiver, Ned Reed, who came up with a big 42-yard reception on the last drive.
Those second-level throws are really the thing that Mitchell needs to develop. Just, it's on such a line, and even with just the defensive line and the offensive lineman in front of him, you just got to put a little bit more touch on that to get it over the top of, even when there isn't like a linebacker in zone that you're trying to feather it between, a little bit more touch on those throws. Everything's a fastball for him right now, and he's got a great arm, so that works a lot of the time. But can you throw that changeup a little bit more effectively and a little bit more often?
Mitchell, under pressure, able to get out to his right side and gain a handful of yards. Does go out of bounds, which stops the clock, but not a lot of options there for a guy who was surrounded by white jerseys and ultimately still made a positive play.
Yeah, he kept his eyes downfield pretty much the whole way. There just weren't a lot of receivers out in the route. They really wanted to kind of max protect. Felt like they were taking kind of a shot there. Protection fell apart fairly quickly. So you scramble, you make the most of it. Still a positive play, and that's why having an athletic quarterback is something you need.
Still in field goal range for Michael Andrich, but looking for more. It's Reed inside the 5. The ball comes out. It's loose in the end zone, and Reed falls back on it.
Can't advance a fumble. So they're going to say he fumbled just short of the goal line, and that'll set up 1st and goal.
Which ultimately may benefit the Gators in a chance to wind the clock down even just a few more ticks if they score on the next play. Let's take another look at this replay.
Having a big receiver like Reed in that situation is helpful for Mitchell's particular struggle of kind of overthrowing those mid-level throws and putting a little too much heat on them. Reed had to go up and grab that one a little bit, but maybe a 5'8" receiver can't go up and get that one as easily as he did.
Good eyes from the officials. They nail that call. Ball comes loose right at the 1-yard line. As you said, Josh, teams cannot. Oh, now they're calling it a touchdown.
Okay.
We've seen a couple of these. We saw Kiski benefit from what looked like a ball jarred loose, but was ruled a completion, and now you see, I think that ball comes out before the goal line, but certainly the officials have a better view down there.
Yeah, so I guess they're just assuming it crossed the plane before it was knocked out.
So Reed ends up with the touchdown. The Gators extend the lead to 20 with a chance to make it 21 on the PAT.
Things looked really nervy for Gateway just a few minutes ago. Mitchell has been pretty nails. They've not decided to run the ball to salt this away. They've just put it on their sophomore quarterback. And for, a few misses here and there, he's really delivered. It's been some open receivers, and Reed, I think, is emerging as a legitimate weapon who might be the number one in this offense. But Mitchell's been very good.
Is up and good. And yes, Josh, it shows the trust that they have in a guy like Mitchell, and he has rewarded them. And even some of these misses, he's missing in areas that don't give defenders a chance to make a play on the ball.
Yeah.
So, you live with that.
You're not going to hit every single throw. I think it's a recurring miss that he has. So it's an arrow he needs to add to his quiver as he continues to develop as a quarterback. You need different pitches, different types of throws. But the arrows he does have are very good right now. And he's looking like he could be a difference-making quarterback as already a sophomore with a lot more improvement to go in his very young career. And then he's got a really dynamic young receiver who they're going to use in the backfield. They're going to use in all these different ways in Reed. That's only good news for Gateway coming out of week one so far.
We've seen a couple guys who were unknown commodities coming into this season. We just talked about Reed, the freshman, but on the other side of it, Deshaun Spencer, a senior, with a couple big grabs early in this game and some yards after the catch, looking comfortable with the ball in his hands. So the Gateway offense, 31 points on the board, and now looking every bit of what's going to be a 1-0 team here in 5A. A beautiful kick hitting right at that front corner of the end zone. Kind of right where he's been dancing most of the night. Michael Andrich puts that one in the end zone for a touchback. And this is a unique situation for Gateway football. A team that is one of the better known programs in Western Pennsylvania with a ton of history. They made the playoffs from 2016 to 2023 uninterrupted. Two-time WPIAL champs under Don Hall. And then all of a sudden, 2, 3, and 7 seasons in a row. Very unfamiliar territory for the Gators. And so coming into this season, they really are flying under the radar. We've got everyone talking about Woodland Hills as the defending conference champs. Penn Trafford returning a ton of talent. Can the Gators put themselves in that conference conversation? They played both of those teams very well last year. Tight games in the second half, but just didn't have the arm power to keep up in those games. It looks like maybe this year they might have the horses. Big completion over the middle, and the aforementioned Spencer in there helping to make the tackle along with number 23 for the Gators, Keon Barton. But not after a nice grab a few yards after the catch for the big tight end, Caleb Varner.
And Smith has typically been traditionally just the Mike in the middle of this defense. They're letting him do a little bit more this year. He's dancing around the edges. He's dropping down as kind of a Sam linebacker at times. He's rushing off the edge like he did there. They're giving him a little bit more freedom, and that might be because they trust Burrows next to him a little bit more than they have other partners for Smith in the past. But you're seeing why they're letting him do that with big hit on the quarterback. He had 2 big sacks that were very impactful. And another situation here where the defensive backs for Gateway being sticky in coverage and making tackles after that.
Good sure tackle on a quick pitch and catch to Jack Scott on the outside. His first grab of the night. Now trying to hit out toward the sidelines. Varner again, but that one thrown over everyone and incomplete.
And Smith barking at his teammates. The senior leader of this defense is not content with this 31-10 lead. He wants to make sure that Kiski does not convert this 3rd and short, that he can give his offense back the ball, and they can salt this one away. And obviously that's the mentality you want to see. Mitchell was kind of calling up some teammates. Will steal Don Hall's verbiage there, but the leaders are very clear on this team.
Cavaliers able to move the pile enough for what looks like a first down. Officials gesturing as much. So Cavaliers will maintain the ball, but I mean, this is a win. I mean, getting Kiski deep into third down, making them run the ball in this situation, down 3 scores with time running down quickly. And again, another running play is Artman just going to take it himself, and this is just not what Kiski can be doing at this point in the game, and the Gators are allowing them to just take what the defense is giving them, and it's just 5 yards at a time.
Carrying back in there at left tackle, and in the past where I said,
ball's loose.
Ball out, recovered by Kiski. In the past where it was maybe you mush rush a little bit, try to keep Artman in the pocket. Now, pin your ears back, because if he takes off and scrambles, that's a win for you because the clock keeps running.
Taylor falls on the ball, but not before it falls backwards and creates what is now 3rd and 12. The clock running down, under 4 minutes to go.
You mentioned back-to-back 3 and 7 seasons for this Gateway team. Last year was a really tough schedule with a lot of 6A teams on it, so that team maybe wasn't a traditional 3 and 7 type of record. You mentioned playing a lot of other teams close. You take a step forward, your quarterback improves, you start thinking playoffs pretty quickly here in week 1.
Timeout is called by the Cavaliers, which stops the clock with 3s across the board, 3:33 left. Yeah, I mean, in a 2-year cycle, you face State College, which is a district champion in the middle of the state, a very talented club. You play North Allegheny a couple times. You play Hempfield. The years before that, you had matchups with Central Catholic, which is as close to a dynasty out in those parts as you're going to see. And so the Gators get a little bit of reprieve from that as they see teams like Fox Chapel and Connellsville start to filter back into the schedule. And speaking of schedule, let's take a look at what we've got on the docket here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. I want to thank everyone so much who's tuned in, whether you're cheering for the Cavaliers or you're a Gators faithful. We hope that you'll stay tuned in to our programming here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. And I know we'll do it again at the end of the broadcast, but a big shout out to our incredibly talented crew. Talk about week 0, week 1, and no jitters and no rest for the wicked. We went from spring sports, got a couple months, and then jumped right back into it, and our crew is ready, and they've done a fine job tonight.
No operational penalties from this crew.
Nope.
They're getting everybody lined up. Ball snapped on time.
And an interception. What a grab. Undercutting the big tight end Varner, and coming up with the grab is Antonio Fallow.
Fallow is somebody we haven't really talked about tonight. He's kind of that free safety for the most part for Gateway. They play, 2 deep safeties a lot of the time. He's ended up matched up against slot receivers. He closes on this ball really well, and that's just an impressive way to finish on the football. Really good stuff from the sophomore, who's been pretty unsung. He's made some good tackles tonight, had that big penalty on offense, and Mitchell kind of got on him a little bit, but he's certainly making his presence felt in the back end of this Gateway defense. Feels pretty trustworthy against the passing game of Kiski when we've seen them later in this game try to air it out.
Fallow give it up 3 inches to Varner, in addition to a little weight as well. And I think what impressed me most was that he was aggressive and high-pointing that ball and making sure he came down with it with those green gloves. And so it gives the ball back to Mason Mitchell and the Gators offense, who will hand it to Dan Sear, who grabs it at a standstill and then starts his feet. He's able to gain about 2 yards. More than anything, the Gators just want to see him hang on to the ball and close this one out, as Dan Sear coming up with a little bit of a limp again here. They're going to sub him out and bring back into the contest Daryl Harper, who will slot into the backfield now.
See if Harper gets a carry when Dan Sear's been off the field. For the most part, they've just been airing the ball out, but in this situation, you're probably going to want to keep it on the ground. Play clock ticking down under 10 seconds now.
Gators trying to use as much of that clock as possible. Up 3 scores. Harper going to bounce this one to the outside. He's got some greenery, and he's inside Cavaliers territory down to the 45-yard line. And we'll talk about vision from Dancier. A little vision from Harper there. Didn't see anything in front of him, and a little bit of speed to factor in there as well.
Yeah, bounced that to the outside and then was decisive. When he saw the green grass in front of him, he was able to accelerate really quickly and make the most of that for a big run.
Gators now, all likelihood, a first down away.
Wouldn't mind seeing a few more carries for Harper as they try to salt this away.
Game's in hand. You got a chance to get a look here at your junior reserve tailback. And this one not going to go quite as well for Harper.
No.
I mean, kudos to him for staying on his feet as long as he did, but honestly, that's where the wherewithal to maybe drop yourself and live for another down maybe comes in.
Last time he bounced it to the outside and made a big play, but when you're trying to always bounce it to the outside, sometimes that's what's going to happen. You're going to have these big losses. That was blown up pretty much from the get-go. There was no real run lane, but sometimes you just kind of try to burrow down, take your loss, your 1-yard loss, and don't compound it. And that time he tried to bounce it, tried to stay on his feet. Didn't work to his advantage.
Pass is complete to Stammer.
So the Gators inching closer to a 1-0 start. An impressive performance across the board. This one juggled by Stammer and gathered. Want to take that opportunity now to thank our entire crew for tonight's broadcast. Executive producer Adam Guskey, director Lee Schaefer III, our chief engineer and one of our camera operators Lee Schaefer Jr., Brianna Guskey, Ali Guskey, Rizal Mahmood making up our crew tonight, and then Josh Yorish to my right, and Vince Russo. This has been a lot of fun tonight. We were all sort of texting almost like it was Christmas Eve, waiting to open the presents on this new season, and it is not disappointed. This one has been just a ton of fun tonight. Gators eventually able to put the Cavaliers to bed, but not before a little bit of a fight from the Cavaliers, and credit to them, under first-year head coach. Timmons has got this group believing they can make a difference. They're talking about winning their first playoff game since 1990 up in Vandergrift, and when push comes to shove in 4A, I think this team's got a puncher's chance to do just that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the game script really just got away from them, right? This is a team that is well equipped to play with a lead, and they never had it tonight. The turnover early on that strip sack that would turn into kind of an interception for Casey Carter, that really flipped things against their favor because you're down 1 touchdown. You don't have to speed things up. You don't have to get outside of yourself. You're down 2 touchdowns, and you do have to speed things up. Even in the second half, when they brought it close, they weren't able to, go back to that drop back passing game, move the ball in chunks. They just really need to matriculate it. It's got to be very methodical. But if they can play a game on their terms with a super physical interior defensive line, some really impactful offensive linemen, you can be a really good team before that.
Kneel down is taken by Mason Mitchell, and that is going to do it for tonight's contest. The Gators triumphant 31-10 here to open the season. And we talked about, Josh, the Cavaliers falling behind. We talked about earlier in this game, this was one of the first times we really saw the Gators jump out to a lead, and in this instance, hang on to, and what that sort of looked like for their psyche throughout the game, not having to chase the game, but being able to dictate it a bit on their terms. They really looked like a team, Josh, that controlled tonight's contest.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it was a wise decision in the second half when you don't have the ball basically at all in the third quarter because Kiski has the really long touchdown drive. Your only possession, you have a 3-and-out. You get the ball back, and instead of trying to just milk the clock, trying to just hand it off 3 times and seeing if you can move the chains, they said, no, we really trust our sophomore quarterback. He's going to drop back. He's going to throw it all over the yard. We have a new freshman wide receiver that we think can do a lot of really big things. Let's get him the ball in space. So just keeping their foot on the gas in that situation, I think was the right decision absolutely from Don Hall. And then his young players, especially on offense, paid off that decision by delivering a few big plays. Even if things got a little bit messy and they ended up 1st and goal from the 25, they still cashed that in for a touchdown. So there are mistakes. There are certainly things to clean up. Like you said, no coach is ever going to be like completely happy with the performance, but I think there is way more good than bad on this tape for Gateway, and a lot of positivity going into the rest of the season.
Gators start out 1-0, and we talked before the game, Josh, Mason Mitchell, what's that next step going to look like for a sophomore quarterback? And I think in a lot of ways he delivered, and he showed us what that looks like tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And when he first came in last year, his first appearance was against Plum in relief. His first start was against Kiski. There were some turnovers, but there was also a lot of poise from a freshman. He just looked comfortable in the pocket. He looked like he had been playing quarterback for a really long time, and with 7-on-7, all these different things, these guys get a lot of reps, even as young players. And I think you're seeing that with him as a sophomore after throwing for about 2,000 yards last year, running for a few hundred more. He's comfortable as a quarterback. And it's not just the big throws, the touchdown throws. We saw some really strike up the seam, some really nice throws. The touchdown he threw, rifling it between two defenders. Like, there's arm talent there, and that's the stuff that's going to pop off the page. But setting up the Michael Andrich field goal in the first half, which ultimately loomed very large, as they always held that at least a touchdown advantage over Kiski throughout the second half. He's under pressure. He steps up calmly. He gets to his check down, finds Casey Carter. What could have been a 6-yard loss is a 2-yard gain. It feels like a small thing, but when you have a kicker who can hit a 40-yard field goal, that's great quarterbacking. Like, that's the type of stuff that you want to see from a young quarterback. So I think that composure, that poise, those are the things that make me think, okay, it's not just arm talent with this kid. He knows how to play the position, and that's what makes a really good quarterback.
Defensively, we'll end talking a little bit about that linebacking core. Michael Burrows, Jackson Smith. Khalid Harper missed a little time toward the end of the game, but boy, did that linebacking crew look ready to get the job done today. Yeah,
definitely, and that's a group that early in their careers, because we've seen them play as younger players. Burrows played as a sophomore last year. Jackson Smith's been playing since his freshman year. They were downhill, and they were going to hit you, right? That was their real calling card. They both still have that in their bag, but they can do so much more. We saw Michael Burrows dropping in coverage, dislodging the ball from a receiver because he got great depth in a zone drop. We saw Jackson Smith playing on the edge a little bit, keeping the best offensive lineman maybe in the WPIAL or one of at bay so he couldn't get his hands on him, and able to shed him to make a sack on the quarterback. Not being overzealous to try to beat him with a pass rush move, just saying, I know my limitations here, but I also know if I can keep you off of me, I can make this tackle. So I just think those two veteran players at the heart of this defense, they're what make it go, and it's their versatility as they age into themselves as linebackers that's really going to give this defense different layers and different pitches that they can throw. They can blitz, they can drop back in coverage, they can do a lot of different things, and I think that's, you know, the value of having veterans at that position.
Josh, always great to call a game with you. So glad to have you with us here again tonight. The Gators score the first 17 points and the final 14 points. Kiski able to get 10 in the middle in what was a streaky game for both teams, but the Gators come out on top with a thrilling and dominant performance over the Cavaliers. Your final score 31-10. The Gators moved to 1-0 on the season. The Cavaliers 0-1. Neither team playing conference action tonight. The Gators will head on the road for another non-conference matchup next week against the Penn Hills Indians. You can catch that here on GatewayGatorProductions.com. For Josh Yorish, I'm Vince Russo and our entire talented crew. We want to thank you once again for tuning in tonight. Have a safe rest of your weekend. We'll catch you next Friday in Penn Hills.